Great Tribal Chief. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, Proof. This big bow fully demonstrated its true power in Shi Xiong's hands. In this era, this big bow is equivalent to the anti-material sniper rifle of later generations. Whether it is a musket or a bow and arrow, it is eclipsed in front of this big bow. However, all the Cherokee people near the great tent of the Cherokee Palace cheered for this big bow. Of course, this kind of cheers may also be given to the Great Bear, the guardian of the Kabru High Priest. If anyone is upset, it can only be the Bighorn Sheep, who is the messenger of the Cree tribe. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, it would be really hard for him to imagine that there are such characters in this world. At the beginning, he directed the remaining soldiers of Yu Chiron to chase and intercept the big man, but in the end he lost a lot on a river beach. Now it seems that the big defeat is not unacceptable. It's just that the sky is too powerful, and he is the guardian of the mysterious Kabru High Priest of the Cherokee tribe. If the Cherokee really fights with the Cree, with this big man, the Cree might not lose, but it will definitely pay a higher price. No, this matter must be reported to the chief as soon as possible, and the tribe also needs to prepare as soon as possible. Coupled with the inhuman force displayed by the big man, now the chief of the Cherokee tribe has taken a 180-degree turn in his attitude. Obviously, such an outstanding one, a warrior, the Cherokee would never hand it over anyway. Then instead of standing here to get angry, it is better to return to the tribe as soon as possible. Therefore, the Bighorn Sheep made a request to leave very simply, and Chief Junaruska so happily agreed. After watching the Bighorn Sheep and more than 10 guards riding away from the royal court, Chief Junaruska smiled and asked the Stone Bear, "Okay, Great Bear, now that annoying guy is gone, too, should you tell me about your request? This is the royal account of our tribe. There is no one here who can let you avoid it." Shi Xiong said happily, "Dear Chief Junaruska, in fact, my request is very simple, that is, please allow me to give me 600 more soldiers, and then I will lead the 400 musketeers of our tribe and these 600 warriors, to conquer the Cree in the south for you." "Well, even if you can't conquer the Cree, I will let the Cree stay honestly in the south of the Blue Fog. I will use the facts. Tell them that the area north of the Blue Mist is not something they can get involved, otherwise their people will die more." This stunned everyone in the great tent of the royal court. For a long time, Chief Junaruska smiled bitterly and pointed to the Stone Bear and said, "Great Bear, are you kidding me? You just have 1,000 people. Want to conquer a powerful Cree?" "Dear Chief Junaruska, this is the royal tent of our Cherokee tribe. All of you here are well-known figures in our tribe, so how can I be kidding you here? What I said is really..." After speaking, Shi Xiong muttered in a volume that everyone present could hear, "Actually, that's what I said just now, but none of you believe it, so I can only challenge the divine decree immunity." This muttering made the faces of all the people present very embarrassed, but Chief Junaruska still asked, "Big Bear, you just said it. This is the king's court, you can't talk nonsense. Since you said it, given this, what can you do to prove that you can do this? You have to know that I am the chief of the entire tribe, and I am responsible for the safety of any member of the tribe. There is no way for you to prove what you have done. Before saying all this, I cannot agree to your request. Even if you pass the divine decree immunity, I will be responsible for the lives and deaths of 1,000 people. Even if I accept punishment for this, I will not agree to you." Divine decree immunity is a very sacred ceremony. As long as the challenger passes the divine decree immunity, he can not only veto the penalty imposed on him, but also make a request. Once this request is made, it cannot be rejected unless the chief or the high priest is willing to suffer 10 lashes, he can refuse an unreasonable request. Obviously, this request made by the guardian of the Kabru High Priest is an unreasonable request for everyone in the great tent. Of course, Stone Bear also secretly praised Chief Junaruska's remarks in his heart, From the words the chief said just now, it can be seen that this chief, who is a bit fat, will really consider it for the tribe. Otherwise, he would not say that he would rather accept punishment than refuse the request. However, since Shi Xiong is willing to come to the Wangting Diazhong from the Gaoshu tribe, his score is to make this request. Now the Chicashes in the west can't even take care of themselves, while the Crees in the south are actually ready to move, so if this is the case, it is better to let yourself go and beat this around tribe. The High Tree tribe with hot weapons such as Ferguson rifles, conscientious guns, and earthen grenade is definitely not something a group of Cree people who only know how to wield cold weapons can't stop them. If the mortar can be reproduced in a short time, even a small caliber mortar or even a smaller caliber grenadier, then with a firearm array of 400 to 500 people, it can definitely defeat the last one at a time. Wankilees www.wuxiaspot.com. This is not Shi Xiong's random thoughts. The Cree may have seen a musket array, but they have never seen an unscrupulous cannon or a hot weapon such as a grenadier or a mortar. Once this kind of small artillery weapon is used on the battlefield, its lethality to the enemy is put aside. The momentum alone is enough to scare the Cree. This point has been fully demonstrated during the expedition to Uchiran. For the North American Indians who have little insight, this kind of weapon that can make a loud noise and cause great damage is the wrath of the gods. If you encounter a small group of Cree, with a musket array and a large iron bow that exceeds the Cree's bow and arrow, you are absolutely sure to kill them. And if you encounter thousands of Cree troops, then dozens of mortars or grenades are displayed. These people are chickens. After all, Cree people are also human, and they are aboriginals with little knowledge. As long as it is a human being, when faced with a powerful weapon that he has never seen before, he will be ignorant and fearless, or he will be completely frightened by the powerful weapon. Ishikama believes that if the Cree's army is confronted with his own thermal weapon, the greatest possibility is to be completely frightened. On this, Shi Xiong has full confidence. Therefore, Stone Bear used this method to make such a request to Chief Junaruska. Now since Chief Junaruska doesn't believe that he has such abilities, he can only prove it to him. Chapter 302, 50 to 500. Looking at the scene of 50 people versus 500 people in the distance, whether it was Chief Junaruska, the High Priest of Bakalazut, or Bone Spear, their faces showed incredible expressions. Especially the 500 warriors selected from the 4 guardian tribes all have wooden shields an inch thick in their hands. This is a pairing method proposed by Shi Xiong. The rules are very simple. The 50 musketeers brought by Shi Xiong will act as the defensive side, and then the 500 soldiers selected from the 4 guardian tribes will act as the offensive side. Well, these 500 soldiers must attack from a certain range directly in front of the gun array, instead of spreading out and attacking from all directions. That would be too unfair to these 50 musketeers. 50 musketeers use muskets, and the 500 soldiers will hold heavy wooden shields to ensure safety, but when they attack, as long as there are bullet marks on the wooden shields, they must retreat. The wooden shield is about the same size as a person. Once the wooden shield is shot, it means that the person behind the wooden shield will also be shot. Since the maximum range of the bows and arrows carried by these 500 fighters was only about 120 steps, so long as the 500 fighters attacked within 120 steps from the 50 musketeers, it would be considered as this: 500 soldiers won. On the contrary, 50 musketeers win. Except for Stone Bear and the 50 musketeers, everyone on the scene didn't think that the 500 elite fighters had broken through less than 120 steps. After the attacking horn sounded, 500 soldiers holding large wooden shields were like a flood of mountain torrents, wailing strangely in their mouths, holding up the heavy wooden shields and starting to charge. Of course, the range of their charge is limited to a width of 50 meters, and the distance starts from 300 steps. The 50 musketeers facing them seemed to be so weak. However, just when these 500 fighters held up their wooden shields and rushed into the range of about 260 steps, which is about 180 meters, Shi Xiong, the temporary commander, shouted, 4 rows of shooters take turns! First row, let it go. Accompanied by the loud gunshots, the 12 soldiers in the first row completed the firing, and this small position was immediately enveloped by the bubbling blue smoke. In the front row of the 500 soldiers who were charging, there were 4 soldiers who paused. Then they looked at the shield in their hands and ran to the side unhappy. Obviously, these 12 shots hit the wooden shields of 4 fighters. According to the regulations, the 4 fighters who were hit by the wooden shields had to withdraw from the battlefield. Their wooden shield was shot, meaning they had been shot. If they hadn't had a wooden shield in their hands, they might have died under the musket. For this hit rate, Shi Xiong is still very dissatisfied. The group of fighters on the opposite side made a charge of Yang. It is not good to say that it should be hit with closed eyes, but the current shooting rate is only 30%, which is really a bit unreasonable. But at this time there was no way to reprimand. The charging enemy charged forward more than 10 steps in a short period of time. Second row, let go. Following Shi Xiong's order, the second row of musketeers fired the muskets in their hands. The next moment, the charging enemy 6 people left the team. Third row, let go. Fourth row, let go. First row, let go. Accompanied by Stone Bear's rhythmic commands, the enemy army quickly broke through to within 140 meters. However, after entering this range, the shot rate of the musketeers was even higher. In almost every round of platooning, at least 10 enemy troops left the assault team. Due to the limitation of reloading speed, the musketeers can only maintain the highest reloading speed of 7 rounds per minute, but even so, the period from the enemy breakthrough from 300 steps to 200 steps, which is 140 meters, within the distance, it was enough for the musketeers to fire at least 5 bullets per person. 50 musketeers each had 5 rounds, that is, 250 shots were fired. Based on the average hit rate of 50%, a total of 125 enemy troops had withdrawn from the assault team. In the range from 200 steps to 120 steps, the musketeers' hit rate reached almost 100%, and almost every shot fired would inevitably lead to more than 10 enemy troops withdrawing from the assault group. In the end, although the enemy army holding a wooden shield finally rushed into the range of 120 steps, the remaining people were less than half of the 500. Once this distance is reached, the musketeer can no longer use the musketeer. I saw these musketeers put their muskets next to them, and took out the iron bows on their backs. Then, almost in the blink of an eye, 50 arrows with steel arrows rose into the sky. At the same time that the first batch of arrows has not completely fallen, the second batch of arrows is ready. Compared with the musket, the speed of the bow and arrow is undoubtedly much faster. It only takes 3 seconds at most to complete the cycle from bending the bow to shoot the arrow and then to the second bow to shoot the arrow. Then, the wooden shields in the hands of the remaining soldiers in the enemy army were immediately nailed with dense arrows. This is because these enemy troops did not put down their wooden shields. If they put down their wooden shields and attacked with bows and arrows at this time, then the remaining 200-odd enemy troops would immediately be shot and killed by these waves of arrows. I'm reading www.ukenshu.com. In other words, even if the enemy army rushed into the range of 120 steps or 80 meters with the wooden shield high, they would not have much chance to cause damage to the musketeers. Musketeers can shoot with muskets from a long distance, and once the enemy rushes into a certain range, the bows and arrows on their backs will become the most lethal weapons. This situation caused Chief Junaruska and several high-ranking tribes to change their faces. Bone Spear whispered, "Chief, the Guardian's musketeer team is really difficult to defeat. Don't forget that our soldiers have shields in their hands. If our soldiers don't have shields in their hands, then just when you charge ahead, 100 or 200 people will be killed or injured. If our team is killed or injured 100 or 200 people at once, the team will immediately collapse." Chief Junarusk nodded in agreement. He knew very well that this was just a drill. The 500 soldiers had no scruples because of their shields. If it were on a real battlefield, these 500 soldiers would not have so many shields to use. And once they lose the protection of the wooden shield, as long as the 500-person team suffers 200 casualties, then this battle will be impossible to fight at all. Because as long as there is such a high casualty, then without the enemy firing, the team will have to collapse first. Even the elite team can't withstand such a high casualty rate. Although he was very reluctant to admit defeat, Chief Junaruska had to admit that 50 to 500, this seemingly unfair duel was the victory of the 50 musketeers. Chapter 303, Invite. Great Bear, how did you do all this? Well, before you answer this question, I must make a solemn apology to you. I apologize to you for what I did before. Cherokee King in the court tent, Chief Junaruska said sincerely. Strictly speaking, Chief Junaruska asked Kara Krilu, the leader of the Red City Alliance, to bring the stone bear from the High Tree tribe to the messenger of the Cree. There was nothing wrong with this matter. At different statuses, the angle of view of the problem is naturally different. Chief Junaruska, as the chief of the Cherokee tribe, bears the fate of the entire Cherokee tribe of more than 100,000 people, so his every move must be considered from the perspective of the interests of the entire tribe. In order to take revenge, Shi Xiong led a group of Chickasha fighters to slaughter the Yuchi and angered the powerful Cree. The Cree came to the door for someone. In truth, the Chief Junaruska at the time, from any point of view, it is the right choice to hand over Shi Xiong. Even if this great bear is the guardian of the Kabru high priest, it won't work. Between the possibility of a war with the Cree and this guardian, everyone knows how to choose. It's just that Chief Junaruska never thought that this great bear was such a fierce guy. Not only did he veto his sentence by challenging the god immunity, he also showed himself a kind of a new and powerful combat method. A total of 500 elite warriors of the royal court guarding the tribe were defeated in front of 50 musketeers, which completely opened Chief Junaruska's eyes. As a chieftain of a clan, Chief Junaruska immediately realized the importance of this method of combat, so this great bear immediately rose to become the strategic core of the entire Cherokee clan. Of course, Chief Junaruska, who can be flexible, doesn't mind using his most sincere attitude to apologize for his previous wrong judgment. Dear Chief Junaruska, you are too unbearable to say that. You are the chief of a clan. Your previous judgment was based on the interests of the entire clan. If I were you, I will definitely make the judgment too. So, you should not apologize for this. For Shi Xiong, it is a pretty word that is easy to come by. This kind of hello, me, good thing, good things for everyone, those beautiful words learned from previous jobs. Naturally, bears don't want to throw money out. Not to mention that Shi Xiong took the initiative to come to the king's court this time. The main purpose is to impress the chieftain who holds a lot of power. Therefore, the atmosphere in the big tent suddenly became very harmonious. The atmosphere became harmonious, and the two sides who had almost become enemies returned to a close family again. So Shi Xiong dared to say something with confidence. Dear Chief Junaruska, these muskets were made by the people of our tribe, but this is a bit long to speak of. Last year, the Shaggy Cattle tribe I belonged to was attacked by the Chickasha, and then the Shaggy Cattle tribe I was in was almost exterminated, and then those of us who survived went to the High Tree tribe, that is, the Kabul High Priest tribe. After all, our Shaggy Cattle tribe was from Kabula, separated from the priest tribe. On the road, I was badly injured and fortunately got the guidance of the Supreme Sun God, which completely opened my mind as a fool. Since he wants to impress the high-ranking tribes of the king's court, he has to establish himself as the so-called Son of God. Shi Xiong doesn't mind talking about it here. Anyway, the Indians of this era are very good at fooling around. This talk talked about the fall of night, and the group of people in the great tent of the king's court were moved by heart. They didn't doubt what the big man said. After all, they had investigated the origin of this big man before. To be able to change from a silly head to a guardian named by the last Kabru high priest himself, it would be impossible without the intervention of the gods. In addition, the original title of Son of God was given by the high priest Kabru himself, so everyone would not doubt the origin of this Son of God. Although the high priest Kabru has not been in the royal court for a long time, her legend still circulates. Especially the way that Chief Junaruska got the position of chief of the Cherokee was a bit unglamorous, so he paid more attention to the opinion of Kabru high priest. Some time ago, I took the remaining 100 soldiers of the Zio tribe to avenge the Yuchi people. In fact, there is another more important purpose to test our musketeers. Facts have proved that our musketeers are no worse than the Vasika musketeers. Even because we are using new rifles, our musketeers have to fully surpass Vasichu's musketeers. Chief, this is our biggest advantage now, and at the same time, I dare to use 1,000 people to conquer the Cree. Where is the confidence? Hearing that Shi Xiong said so positively, coupled with the previous performances of the 50 musketeers, Chief Junaruska also began to hesitate. As a chief, he cannot make a decision about the fate of a clan just by relying on what is in front of him. The powerful Cree is a big tribe that is not weaker than the Cherokee. If you go to war with the Cree, then the resources of the entire Cherokee will inevitably be tilted towards this war, and you will even suffer from such things as POW attacks by the Tans, Kentucky, and Missourians. If the powerful Cree can be defeated, then the Cherokee tribe will immediately become the most powerful tribe in the entire southeast of the New World. www.wuxiaspa.com. But if it is deadlocked with the Cree, then the tribes will take advantage of the vacancy to enter, causing great trouble to the Cherokee tribe. Of course, if this war fails, then the Cherokee tribe who finally stood firm in Monongahela can't say they have to relocate again. But now that there is no high priest Kabulu among the tribe, where should the tribe move? Chief Junaruska is very clear that he has such concerns. In fact, the Cree people in the south also have such concerns. It's easy to not start a war between two behemoths, because there are too many things involved. It is precisely for this reason that the Cherokee and Cree have been able to live in peace for so many years. And now, the appearance of this great bear gives Chief Junaruska a glimmer of hope to deal with the Cree, but this is only a hope. No matter how dazzling the 50 musketeers were, Chief Junaruska would not think that a mere 1,000 men would be able to deal with the tens of thousands of Carry fighters. Of course, Shi Xiong could see Chief Junaruska's hesitation, so he decided to add a fire and let the chief completely make a decision to attack the Cree. Dear Chief Junaruska, if I, as the guardian of the High Priest Kabru, invite you to visit our tribe on behalf of the High Priest Kabru, I wonder if you would like to go there? Maybe. Yours. A big drive will make our High Priest Kabru change some of his previous ideas. As soon as he uttered these words, not only Chief Junaruska, but also the eyes of the High Priest Bakalazut, who had never said a word, lit up. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304, Pontoon. The time when the High Priest of Bakaruzul served as the High Priest of the tribe was not too long, only a few years. The previous High Priest of the tribe died suddenly of a strange disease. When he became ill, he shook his body and became hot and cold. After a few days, he began to fall into a coma, and then he did not wake up. He belched after a few days in a coma. People in this era naturally don't recognize cerebral malaria as a malignant infectious disease. It's just strange how this malignant infectious disease, which is usually more common in Africa, spread to the New World in North America. Anyway, the last High Priest of the Cherokee tribe was killed by brain malaria. Because the condition after the onset of this disease was really overwhelming, the previous High Priest never had time to appoint his successor from the shaman witch doctors under him. Bakarazu was the great witch doctor at the time. With his superb medical skills, he saved many people. As a result, the High Priest died, and there was no designation of the High Priest to take over. So everyone jointly elected Bakara to become the new High Priest of the Cherokee tribe. By the way, Bakarazu admires the legendary Kaburu High Priest very much. Otherwise, when Hong Yun's mother died of illness last year, he would not have come to the Gaoshu tribe to preside over the funeral. Now that I heard Shi Xiong's invitation, of course he wanted to follow it. The reason why Stone Bear sent out such an invitation and said that the High Priest Kabru might make some changes, it was naturally purposeful. A long time ago, Shi Xiong instilled some things into Hong Yun, such as how to become a true spiritual leader, how to better control the thoughts of the people, how to continue to promote the reputation of the Kabru high priest, and so on. In fact, one purpose is to make High Priest Kabru the greatest priest on this continent. If you want to unify the new world of North America, it is not enough to rely on force alone, although it can promote a short-term reunification. If you want to maintain this kind of rule for a long time, the Indians living on this continent must have a trustworthy spiritual leader. Shi Xiong thinks that Hong Yun is a good spiritual leader. So when he came to the king's court, Shi Xiong had discussed with Hong Yun, once the king's affairs encountered any trouble, then he would use the name of Kabru High Priest. Hong Yun didn't mind this. That's why Stone Bear invited Chief Junaruska to visit the High Tree tribe in the name of Kabul High Priest. Looking at the entire Cherokee tribe, there are only a handful of people who can appeal to the chief, and the Kabru High Priest is definitely one of the very top-ranked. The most important thing is that at such a sensitive moment, Chief Junaruska also wants to hear the opinion of Kabru High Priest. Still the same sentence, although the High Priest Kabru has not been in the royal court for a long time, the legend of the High Priest Kabru is enduring. That magical big prophecy is not a joke. The Cherokee tribe can last for so many years, and in the most difficult moment of being expelled from the Great Lakes area, it was the Kabru High Priest who guided the tribe to complete the migration. And Chief Junaruska is also very interested in everything that the Stone Bear said. If he can really conquer the Cree with 1,000 people, Junaru Chief Scar will never let go of this opportunity. Is it possible to do this? As the chief of the clan, Junaruska needs to be verified from many aspects. The opinion of the High Priest Kabru is undoubtedly the most important thing. And Chief Junaruska also wanted to see the Kabru High Priest of the present day with his own eyes. So, the matter of Chief Junaruska bringing the High Priest Bakarazu and the high leaders of the Red City Alliance and the White City Alliance to the Kabul High Priest tribe was so smoothly settled. Although the Indian chief of this era is not as good as the emperor of the country on the western side of the Pacific, he needs many people to accompany him. Especially protection power is indispensable. The importance of the chief to a tribe is self-evident, that is, a symbol of a tribe. Even the smallest tribe is like this. It seems that if it hadn't been for Shi Xiong to shoot and kill Uchiran's two chiefs in succession, the Kari people would not be so angry. You slaughtered all the chiefs, or you killed them as soon as they were slaughtered. As the boss of the Yuchi, it would be strange if the Cree was not angry. This is worse than just slapping the Cree's face with two ears. Junaruska, as the chief of the Cherokee tribe, naturally needs the highest protection for travel safety, not to mention that the people who followed him to the High Tree tribe are important figures such as the High Priest, the high leaders of the Red City Alliance and the White City Alliance. It is not an exaggeration to say that if the Cree can wipe out this team, the entire Cherokee tribe will be in chaos for a long time. However, it is almost impossible for other tribes to kill this team with the cold weapons in their hands. A total of 1,000 elite warriors were selected by the four guardian tribes along with the royal court. These warriors alone were enough to destroy small tribes like Uchiran directly. Not to mention that the root of this team is in the hinterland of the Cherokee tribe, and it is impossible for a large group of foreign troops to appear on this route. As for the small units, they will deliver food when they come. After this huge team walked out of Monongahela, they marched southward along the valley between the later Blue Ridge Mountains. And in order to welcome the arrival of the chief and his group, www.wuxiaspa.com, Kuwam led 10 musketeers to ride to the Gaoshu tribe early. After all, the arrival of the chief, Gaoshu tribe must make preparations for reception. Although all the roads are mountainous, the valleys of the Blue Ridge Mountains are still relatively gentle, and it is not difficult to walk. But because there are too many people in the team does not advance fast. After walking in this way for 7 or 8 days, a large river appeared in front of the team. This is the large bend of the barrier to the north of the Gaoshu tribe, which is the Tennessee River for later generations. And Hong Yun, accompanied by Big Feet and others, waited by the river early. It's impossible to build a bridge on the Big Bend with a width of hundreds of meters and rapid water flow. But if you use a canoe to transport so many people, it is estimated that it will take at least half a month. But fortunately, Shi Xiong has been preparing for crossing the river, so the Dikingshan tribe near Doan has built a lot of thick iron chains early. 2 thick and heavy iron chains were pulled from the southern bank of the river to the northern bank of the river, fixed on both banks of the river, and the most important connecting chain of a pontoon bridge was formed. With these 2 thick iron chains as the connecting chain, only a thick log needs to be fixed a few meters in between, and then planks are laid on the log, and a simple floating bridge is completely formed. This kind of pontoon is no problem for carriages with smaller loads. Chief Junaruska was also surprised and pleasantly surprised when he saw this kind of pontoon. Chapter 305, Endless Good News. This kind of bridge ... Well, it should be called a pontoon bridge. Chief Junaruska stepped on the floating pontoon bridge and stomped his feet carefully before asking the stone bear beside him with satisfaction. Yes, this kind of bridge is called a pontoon bridge. It is a relatively simple bridge to erect, but it is many times larger than a single plank bridge. Our soldiers can even cross such a bridge on horseback. This pontoon is good. Very good. Chief Junaruska leaned over and rubbed the thick iron chain and nodded with satisfaction again. Is this kind of chain easy to handle? It's okay. It's not too difficult. The main reason is that our tribe has traded 4 alchemists from Wasiku through the salt trade. One of them is good at metal smelting. This kind of iron chain is that Wasiku. It has a wide range of uses. Oh, your tribe still produces salt? Is it the same salt as the sea salt produced by the Pamunkey people in the east? Chief Junaruska's attention was immediately distracted by the stone bear. These 2 words were completely attracted, but he immediately ignored the swaying pontoon. The salt produced by our tribe is many times higher than the sea salt produced by the Pamunkey. Those Vasikas are rushing to ask for our salt. Shi Xiong nodded and said, but our tribe has limited manpower and cannot produce more. Or we can supply salt to the entire tribe. Chief, when you reach our tribe, you will be able to see the salt we produce. Then what are you waiting for? Go, hurry up. I can't wait to see your salt now. As the chief of a big tribe, things like salt and food are what he really cares about. Seeing that the chief couldn't wait, Shi Xiong and Hong Yun looked at each other, and they both found the smile in each other's eyes. From the attitude of Chief Junaruska to Hong Yun just now, Shi Xiong felt that his own chief could still be cultivated, so he didn't mind to present the secrets of the High Tree tribe to the chief. After all, if the Gaoshu tribe wants to expand rapidly, it cannot do without the support of this noble chief. It's not that the stone bear really turned his face with the Cherokee tribe, otherwise the Gaoshu tribe could only have a small fight. I really want to turn my face with the Cherokee tribe, let alone whether the Gaoshu tribe has this ability. Even those warriors would never agree. Betrays one's own mother clan, that is, even the gods will be angry. A group of people crossed the pontoon bridge, then got on their horses, and ran toward the Gaoshu tribe along a dirt road that was stepped on. The 1,000 warriors brought by Chief Junaruska, except for the 200 warriors who stayed here to guard the pontoon, the other warriors can only move slowly towards the direction of the Gaoshu tribe by relying on 1 and 2. The Cherokee tribe is powerful, but they are not as powerful as a war horse. Looking at the entire New World of North America, in the middle of the 18th century, war horses were extremely rare among all tribes. Only a very small number of distinguished persons were qualified to ride horses. Others should be on 2 legs. When passing by the Dikingshan tribe, Chief Junaruska's attention was once again attracted by this large area of prosperous construction site. Dear High Priest Kabul, this is your tribe? Chief Junaruska, who has never been to the Gaoshu tribe, naturally didn't know that this was just the Dikingshan tribe, but it was planned by the stone bear to be processed. The base, so the prosperous scene here made the chief mistakenly believe that this is the Gaoshu tribe. It is no wonder that he regards this place as a high tree tribe. The Dikingshan tribe is not what it used to be. It has now completely turned into a large construction site. More than a dozen towering water wheels in the distance looked like giants. making the Indians who had never seen a water wheel involuntarily frightened. Those workshops under construction, as well as the busy workshops that produce various things, have never been seen by Chief Junaruska. In front of this processing base, Chief Junaruska is like a hillbilly who has never seen the world before, and he is like Grandpa Yu who has walked into the Grand View Garden. Not only him, but other people who followed the chieftain were also dumbfounded. They had seen this kind of scene before, and they had never even dreamed of such a scene before. Hong Yun, who was a little proud in his heart, said with a smile, "Chief Junaruska, this is not my tribe, this is just a processing base of our Gaoshu tribe, mainly for processing things that the tribe needs, for example, talking about steel weapons, gun barrels of muskets, etc. The Gaoshu tribe is still some distance away from here." Chief Junaruska then realized that he had a new long, but he was not angry because of it. If he hadn't been thinking about the salt of the Gaoshu tribe in his heart, he would have dismounted and watched carefully at this moment. "Priest Kabru, when I have time, can I take a closer look here?" "Why not? This is also your territory, you can come over at any time." Hong Yun's words made Chief Junaruska's smile more intense. When the group of people set foot on the road to the Gaoshu tribe again, and after a few miles, they entered the cement road that had not been repaired. www.wuxiaspa.com. Chief Junaruska was caught in front of the road that was about to be repaired. The concrete highway was completely shaken. This is the smooth and solid concrete road in front of him made Chief Junaruska completely throw away the salt he had been thinking about. "This is something called cement, developed by my guardian under the guidance of the great sun god. Add water, sand, and stones with cement, mix it evenly, and pour it into a large mold made of wooden boards. After more than 10 days of drying, it became the road in front of us. This road is not afraid of water, and it is extremely hard. As hard as a stone. With such a road, our tribe will no longer be afraid of rain in the future." Hong Yun proud explanation. Chief Junaruska stamped his feet vigorously twice. The shock force shook his teeth and grinned, but he laughed loudly. "Good thing, this is really good thing." Chief Junaruska and a group of high-ranking tribes who followed him were like a group of children in front of the concrete road, jumping and jumping for a long time, before they continued on horseback. As far as Chief Junaruska and the others are concerned, they have been pleasantly surprised since they crossed the river. The pontoon bridge, the prosperous processing base, and the magical concrete road in front of them, and the Vasek who are all robbed of their heads. The salt, these things have brought an incomparable impact to these inadequate high levels. Of course, what they could not think of was that a greater impact was still waiting for them in the Gaoshu tribe not far away. Chapter 306, Almost Scared to Pee. On the next journey, for Chief Junaruska and his party, the surprises were really one after another. Along this flat and hard concrete road, every time you reach a place with dangerous terrain, you will inevitably see several soldiers standing in dangerous positions. Obviously, these soldiers should all belong to the security post. If they do not take the initiative to stand up, it is difficult for outsiders to find that there will be a security post here. With these guard posts, it is obviously impossible for the enemy to sneak along this road without knowing it. Whether it is a horn or wolf smoke, it is enough to expose the enemy's whereabouts. Although there are many security posts in the valley near Monongahela, they are really not as concealed as the security posts here. After returning, you can use the security posts here to transform the security posts near the royal court. The tight defense made Chief Junaruska and his party very relieved. But when they arrived at the Gaoshu tribe, when they saw the farmland on the other side of the river that was invisible at a glance, the shock was even greater than everything they had seen before. Although the Cherokees were driven out of the Great Lakes area by the Iroquois and Delawares, they came into contact with the British more after they came to Monongahela, so the Cherokees went from half farming to half farming. The speed of the transition from the hunting nation to the farming nation is faster. The Cherokees, who have long realized that farming is an important source of food, are now paying more and more attention to farming. However, due to the lack of advanced farming tools and farming methods, the Cherokee farming is still in a relatively low-level primitive stage. In Monongahela, there is no such a neat and huge area of arable land. And because of the advanced farming tools and tamed bison, the Gaoshu tribe's farmlands may not look as neat as the farmland cultivated by modern farming in later generations, but in the New World of North America in this era, it is definitely the only existence of scorpion shit, even the farmland of those European colonists, not necessarily the farmland of the Gaoshu tribe. Don't underestimate the neatness of the farmland. On the surface, neatness may seem beautiful, but in fact, neatness represents a kind of order, which belongs exclusively to the order of farming. Farming is actually a kind of work that requires order: when to open up wasteland, how to sow, how to weed, water, fertilizer, and how to harvest. All must pay attention to order. If there is no order, it means that there is no yield or even no harvest. Chief Junaruska and his party have not yet figured out the relationship between them, but this does not affect this large area of neat farmland, which is invisible at a glance, completely shock them. Such a large piece of farmland has obviously been harvested, so how much grain does it mean to harvest? With this shock, when they saw a group of little guys taking a herd of bison leisurely grazing in the wilderness, their shock was even greater. "You have completely tamed the bison in the wilderness?" Chief Junaruska asked everyone's questions. "Yeah, thanks to the taming skills invented by the Guardians, otherwise it would be impossible to tame so many bison. However, once the bison is tamed, then no matter whether it's land reclamation, farming, or harvesting, these big guys can. It has brought us an incomparable help. Well, it is like this large piece of farmland opened by our tribe on the west side of the river, and 90% of the farmland is contributed by these big guys. Without these tame bison, our tribe can cultivate. It can't be such a large piece of farmland." Hong Yun is even more proud. The high priest Bakarazu asked in a low voice, "High priest Kabru, can you teach us the method of tame bison? This will allow our people to cultivate more wasteland, and our people will have more wasteland. There's plenty of food to eat." Although the high priest Bakarazu is the current high priest of the tribe, and he is much older than Hong Yun, in front of the real Kabru high priest, Bakarazu the high priest has nothing but respect. "This is not a problem. Even if you don't tell me, I will teach you how to tame the bison in the future." Taming the bison is a great help to improve the strength of our tribe, and I will tell you, this tamed bison can not only be used for farming but also help us do other things. At the critical moment, this bison can also act as a surprise soldier on the front line. The effect is very good. It was one day last winter, a group of French musketeers joined a group of Chayakasa attacked our tribe, and we used a bison to overwhelm them. The fireball formation that Hong Yun told about stunned everyone, including Chief Junaruska. They never thought that the bison, which was only used as a meat on the dinner table, turned out to be, after being tamed, also have such ability. And if the tamed bison is really used in the army, then these bison can be used to carry heavy loads. At the critical moment, gather a group of bison and light their tails. This is an invincible stormtrooper. Large areas of farmland, tamed bison and cash farm tools. These may not be as lively as the prosperous construction sites of the Dikimshan tribe, but they are undoubtedly more shocking to Chief Junaruska and his group. And when they entered the tribe, the hardened roads and the tribe www.wuxiaspa.com new style houses built of rocks, cement and cement slabs, and the hard-working tribes all showed how vibrant this tribe is. What shocked Chief Junaruska and the others was that almost everyone in the tribe was equipped with ironware. This kind of ironware, which is precious even in the royal court, is almost the least valuable thing in this tribe. There is also the kind of cotton clothes worn by the people, which is more luxurious. You know, there are not many people in the royal court who can wear such clothes made of cotton, but here, almost everyone wears cotton clothes. And when a car of refined salt pulled from Zioyanshan appeared in front of Chief Junaruska, a group of high-ranking tribes almost stared out when they saw the fine and white salt. It's no wonder that even those Vasaches took the initiative to trade this kind of salt, so they were themselves, and it would be pretty good if they didn't grab it. This group of high-ranking tribes never imagined that in their own territory, There is still a tribe that can produce such good salt. Knowing that the Kabru high priest tribe could produce such good salt, the ghost would be willing to trade salt with the greedy Pamunky. If the large farmland of the Gaoshu tribe, the food piled in the warehouse, the tamed bison, the well-fitting clothes, the sophisticated ironware, and the fine and white salt brought Chief Junaruska and his party to an inexplicable shock, then when they heard the loud noise like a bolt from a blue sky in the distance, they almost freaked out on the spot. P.S. Lao Mo is out. These 2 chapters are released regularly. Chapter 307, Got It Out. Shi Xiong was also taken aback by the explosion, but he immediately became ecstatic. Except for the sound of gunpowder explosion, nothing else can make such a loud noise in this era. It's just that Shi Xiong was used to hearing the sound of black powder explosion, so he immediately heard that this loud noise was not the loud noise made by the black powder explosion, but rather the loud noise made by another kind of explosive explosion. Ring. Could it be Brother Li and Augusta who made the bitterness or smokeless gunpowder out? If that is the case, that would be great, Shi Xiong thought excitedly, and wanted to lift his leg to Brother Li walk where they live. Guardian, this is the kind of gunpowder explosion sound? Can you take us over to see it? Just when the stone bear had just walked 2 steps, Chief Junaruska's slightly trembling voice rang up. He could hear that he was shocked by the loud noise just now, but Shi Xiong told him a lot about heat weapons on the road, and when he was in the royal court, Shi Xiong brought the 50 people. The musketeers also showed their muskets in front of him. Although the sound made by the firing gun was far from comparable to the loud noise, the clever Chief Junaruska quickly guessed the source of the loud noise after passing through the initial panic. Shi Xiong turned his head to look at the chief, and hesitated for a while and said, "Dear Chief Junaruska, it's okay if you want to see this, but you can't bring so many people. There is our whole body, the core of the tribe. Even our tribe cannot easily enter there." When Stone Bear said this, Chief Junaruska immediately understood what was going on. He said very cheerfully, "Okay, I won't take many people. High Priest Bakayutes and Karakrilu the chief and the Bone Spear chief follow me, okay? Well, I don't have to worry about safety here. You are my greatest protector." This is a boast. Shi Xiong's old face feels a little warm. The chief wanted to see the gunpowder experiment, which was originally what Shi Xiong intended to do. To completely impress Chief Junaruska, he must be shown the most powerful thing, whether it is an earthen grenade or an unscrupulous cannon. Stone Bear originally planned to let this Chief Junaruska see it with his own eyes. And only this kind of power and momentum is enough to scare the Indians of this era of weapons that can completely impress the stable chieftain. Now that the chief has personally proposed to take a look, it would be even better. The tribe's Mengzi medicine laboratory was set up on the hillside to the south of the tribe, and the surrounding area was strictly guarded for hundreds of meters. The laboratory is covered with rock and cement slabs, and the confidentiality is not even better than that of the wooden houses of this era. Brother Li and Augusta are responsible for the development of bitter acid and smokeless gunpowder. One of them is proficient in drug testing and the other is proficient in chemical experiments. The cooperation of 2 people can play a role of 1 + 1 greater than 2. The truth is also true. If you simply let them cooperate without telling them the general preparation method of bitterness and pirate techniques, it is estimated that they would not find the method of how to prepare these 2 things in a few months or even years. Whether it is bitterness or no, pyrotechnic powder, it is all made unintentionally, and this unintentional is actually blind. However, there is no research direction for this kind of blindness. If Shi Xiong hadn't known the general preparation methods of these 2 things, it would be a long time to blindly rely on them. You must know that Shido's Ye Yun, who invented the famous Shido's gunpowder, also took 4 years to get Shido's gunpowder after getting the bitter sour. However, with the biggest bug of Shi Xiong, as long as they know the preparation methods of bitter acid and non-pyrotechnic powder, then relying on their professionalism, they must come up with real bitter acid and non-pyrotechnic powder. There is not much difficulty. Knowing the preparation method, it will undoubtedly be a lot easier to study the ratio. Accompanied by Stone Bear and Hong Yun, Chief Junaluska took the high priest of Bakaruzal, Karakrilu and Bone Spear to the laboratory on the southern slope. When he arrived at the laboratory, Shi Xiong found that Brother Li and Augusta were both present, besides David Adian, who was proficient in metal smelting, and several tribal warriors. The faces of several tribal warriors were a bit unpleasant. Obviously they were also frightened by the loud noise just now, but Brother Li, Augusta and Adian were all overjoyed. Seeing that Shi Xiong came with a few people, the three blonde Vasikas immediately greeted him happily. Brother Li said loudly as he walked, "Boss, we succeeded, we succeeded." "That's it. Whether it's non-pyrotechnic powder or what you call bitter sour gunpowder, or that kind of mortar shell, we have it all. The test just now was successful, and we are thinking about going over and taking a look at the explosion." Yee, did they all come out so fast? Shi Xiong was also very surprised. He really didn't expect www.wuxiaspot.com. He just ran to the Cherokee Palace, and it was less than 2 times before and after. In 10 days, the 3 of them actually got the mortar out, and they still fired with smokeless gunpowder, and they were not sour as the mortar for the warhead. Hong Yun can't understand French and English, but she can understand the look on the 3 faces of Brother Li, and since these days there has been a lot of practice every day, so she also realizes that her guardian deliberately the confessed matter was probably brought out by these Vasikas. She also came up and asked Shi Xiong in surprise, "Guardian, did they get the kind of weapon you mentioned?" Shi Xiong looked at Brother Li, who nodded excitedly, but he was about to explain, but saw Chief Junaruska and the others approaching him. Seeing these 4 unfamiliar faces, Brother Li immediately shut his mouth and looked at the 4 of Chief Junaruska with suspicious eyes. Shi Xiong smiled and waved his hand and said in English, "Bill, just talk. These are not outsiders, they are the chiefs and high priests of our tribe. They are here for our weapons. Come here, come, you can experiment as much as you want in a while. It is best to impress our chief, so that he can agree to some of my plans. Bill Gates is not a fool, and a fool can't be an alchemist. He just has a slightly lower IQ, but he can understand what Shi Xiong said." So he nodded happily and began to explain. Ishikama immediately became an interpreter. Chapter 308, Grenadier. As an indigenous chief, Junaruska is already a very good chief, but for what bitter sour gunpowder, what no/smoke/gunpowder, what 48mm caliber, what times professional terms such as path can still be heard in the cloud. Although I don't understand, Chief Junaruska still listens with gusto. For him, this was a good opportunity to broaden his horizons, and it also allowed him to gradually change from an ignorant indigenous chief to another form of chief. But Shi Xiong's surprise is real. Brother Li and Augusta are really good guys. Not only did they come up with non-smoke/gunpowder and bitter sour, they also got out the thunder/acid/mercury stuff. It can be said that the biggest obstacle to making explosive bombs or even all-metal bullets with fixed gunpowder has been completely cleared. The main reason why the shells used in various countries are still solid shells is because they detonated before thunder/acid/mercury was developed, let alone the military of European countries. Even the Stone Bear could not make a bomb. Although Shi Xiong has made a grenade and still has a conscientious cannon, they are all exploded with a fuse index. Not to mention the safety, there is a certain probability of failure to detonate, which is far inferior to the safety of flash hiders, and the detonation method with high success rate. It can be said unceremoniously that once there is thunder/acid/mercury, a flash hider can be made, then no matter whether it is a shell or a bullet, it will be fine. Compared with the preparation of thunder/acid/mercury, it is much easier to make either bitter acid or smokeless powder. So Brother Li and Augusta quickly figured out these two according to the preparation method provided by Shi Xiong. The ratio of gunpowder. No/smoke/gunpowder can be used directly after it is prepared, but if the bitterness is to be turned into a violent drug, some heavy metal powder needs to be added. Picric acid is a strong acid substance. If this thing does not come into contact with metal, there is no danger. This thing was originally developed in historical time and space to be used as a coloring agent, and it was not used in the military until 100 years later. The above shows the safety of this thing. But once this thing comes into contact with metal, it will immediately corrode the metal and form highly sensitive picrates. The reason why picrates are so powerful is because of the existence of these picrates. In fact, Brother Leah and Agustillo had been able to get rid of the bitterness within a few days after Stone Bear left the tribe. Just wanting to make this yellow powder explode violently, they experimented for more than 10 days. Several of these experiments almost happened. If it weren't for Shi Xiong's previous warnings that the power of this bitter sour gunpowder was extremely fierce and extremely sensitive, they had been psychologically prepared for the experiment. At that time, I always controlled the amount of bitterness and paid great attention to safety, so that nothing happened. If someone who doesn't understand directly intervenes in the experiment, it's probably not enough. It is estimated that there will be no bones left behind. It's like how many lives did Ziahua Tartar appear in the original historical time and space? Well, this is not to kill the enemy, but to kill himself. Although the bitterness is not as sensitive as Ziahua Tartar oil, it is not much worse. If you don't pay attention, it will really end up with no bones. After dozens of explosions under control, the Lid and Augustus brothers finally figured out the specific formula of the bitter sour medicine. Today they use the bitter sour medicine they just made. A 48mm caliber mortar was loaded for a test fire, and the results shocked Chief Janaruska and the others. That's right, the mortar cast by David Adian based on Stone Bear's instructions has also been successfully produced. Is actually a mortar, and it is more appropriate to call it a bullet, because the ultralight mortar developed by David Adian is Adian pointed by Shi Xiong based on the data of his own 8-9 style grenadier. The research and development of real mortar shells is still in progress. Compared with shells fired by grenadiers, mortar shells are much more complicated. They not only have tails and primers, but also warheads and percussion fuses, so but it can't be done in a short while. In contrast, the primer of this simple grenadier developed by Adian is separated from the shell. The propellant is installed at the bottom of the grenadier barrel, and does not require a flash cap to be activated. The fuse is used. It's okay. The bullet grenades in the original historical time and space are also ammunition separated, that is, the shells and the propellant are loaded separately. Load the propellant first, and then put it into the shell. Adjust the firing angle when firing, and then pull the belt on the firing machine to fire the bottom to fire the explosive to shoot the shell. This kind of grenadier created by Adian is simpler than Japan's own grenades, because the friction flash hider has not been produced yet, so Ashikama simply continued to use the fuse as a fuse. Anyway, this thing is used to deal with North American Indians, and the requirement for the rate of fire is far less than that of later generations, and the killing efficiency is as high as the ignition index. As for the cannonball of the tossing barrel, that is, the grenade, Adian uses a cast shell with 4 tail fins on the tail, and the front opening of the reading www.hukenshu.com warhead is used to fill the bitter and hard-working drugs. When the bitter sour is filled, plug the opening with a plug with percussive flash hider fuse. This is done with a simple bullet grenade. The loud noise just now was the first live ammunition experiment conducted by this simple grenadier. Although there was no explosion point, judging from the shooting distance and the loud noise, this experiment was obviously very successful. The barrel length of this type of grenadier cast by Adian is about 10 centimeters longer than the barrel length of the 8-9 type grenadier barrel in the original historical time and space, making the barrel that was originally only 260 millimeters long. The length has increased to nearly 400 millimeters. The reason for this is to increase the range. In the past, the soldiers seized Japan's own grenadier barrel to imitate it. But because the barrel could not be rifled, the smooth bore structure was adopted. In order not to affect the firing range, the barrel was lengthened to 400 millimeters. Gaoshu tribe can now rifle the barrel, but it can't do anything about the rifling of the barrel of this kind of grenadier, so Shi Xiong will use this method of increasing the length of the barrel to increase the range. As for how far this grenadier can throw a cannonball, none of the people present had any idea. But based on the sound of the explosion just now, The distance the grenade was thrown out was at least 400 steps, 280 meters, or even farther. Everyone decided to take a look at the explosion point. Only by seeing the effect of the explosion with their own eyes can they determine the specific power of this thing. Chapter 309, Calculation Error. In fact, everyone, including Shi Xiong, miscalculated the range of this simple grenadier. When Brother Li was testing this grenadier just now, the launch angle was only about 30 degrees, which was not the best launch angle for the grenadier. So when Shi Xiong and the others found the burst point, they found that the burst point was actually at the top of a big tree about 150 meters from the launch site. This is a world master that grows alone in this woods, with a height of 60 to 70 meters. But now, this good world master who originally lived and has been treated as a ghost shaved head because of some guy's unintentional act. The original lush canopy is missing a large piece. It is filled with about 200 grams of bitterness. The unacidified artillery warhead hit a branch of the World Master during the flight, and then exploded at a height of about 60 or 70 meters above the ground. The scattered fragments immediately destroyed the World Master. About 1/3 of his canopy is cut off. Don't bear me anymore, okay? I'm not a professional soldier, I just didn't master the launch angle when launching. Are you guys? On the way back, Brother Li incarnates as Master Senzang, chattering about his mistakes. Well, this reason is indeed very powerful, but it does not cover his mistakes. Well, at least the range of this grenade has not been maximized. But no wonder, this place is not suitable for range experiments at all. It's okay to use this open space to experiment with the gun. After all, the effective range of the gun is only about 180 meters. But the range of this simple grenadier is much larger. In order to increase the range, ADN specially lengthened the gun, the length of the barrel. You must know that the range of the 8-9 grenades in the original historical time and space can reach 700 meters, and the effective range alone can reach 500 meters. The range of this simple grenadier cast by ADN may not be as far as that of the Little Devil's grenadier, but the effective range of 400 meters is definitely there. And there are big trees all around here. It would be strange if you could experiment with the range of this simple grenadier. Go, change the venue for experimentation. It's not suitable for this kind of experiment. In front of Chief Junaruska and Red Cloud, Stone Bear decisively changed the test site. Chief Junaruska and the others said nothing. I want to follow it, ignoring the hardship of the journey. This is what the grenadier you are talking about? It's very light. Chief Junaruska seemed to have seen a baby holding the grenadier. He just didn't let go, saying that he had to hold it to the new one by himself. Test site. Yes, this is a weapon used by soldiers. The weight must be reduced as much as possible, so as to ensure that our soldiers can carry this thing for a long time. If it is too heavy, this weapon will lose its weight. Effect. The weight of this grenadier is really small. The original 8-9 grenades in historical time and space weighed only about 5.5 kgs, which was lighter than the weight of a rifle. Because the material of the drapery barrel cast by ADN was not good enough, the wall thickness of the barrel was increased, and the length of the barrel was extended, so the weight of the drapery barrel reached nearly 5 kilograms. But even so, the weight of this tossing barrel is much smaller than the weight of the Saint Etienne rifle and the Brown Beth rifle, and it's not a problem to walk alone for a long time. Well, you're right. Chief Junaruska nodded and said as he walked, Guardian, just such a small thing can really knock that kind of powerful bullet beyond 600 steps. The place? It should be almost the same. The specific situation will depend on the results of the experiment. But if the range of this thing can really reach 600 steps, then with this kind of bullet, it will be enough to convince the Cree. Shi Xiong is full of confidence. When passing by the tribe again, accompanied by a bark of dogs and a slightly immature growl, a big meatball quickly rolled towards the group of them accompanied by a dog. The eyes of the warriors guarding Chief Junaruska suddenly became round. The next moment, all the weapons in their hands were illuminated, one by one, as if they were on the verge of an enemy. Bone Spear and Joe Lakrilu's eyes straightened to shit. Why is there a bear here? Although it is only a half-sized bear cub, it is also an out-and-out bear. is the top predator on this continent. If it were an adult male bear, there would be nothing to do without 20 or 30 fighters. Shi Xiong saw the formation and waved his hand quickly and said, "Relax, relax. Don't be afraid, everyone. This is a bear cub I raised, and that is my son." When everyone heard this, they put aside a little bit, but several guarding warriors still surrounded Chief Junaruska and High Priest Bakalutes. Just now, Shi Xiong and the others had just returned to the tribe. Before they entered the tribe, they were attracted by the loud noise. Although Tep and Sheila smelled the old man, they did not find him. Now that Dad has returned to the tribe, the two children immediately found him smelling it. Sheila was also well behaved, ran to the old man's side and licked his father's hand affectionately. But Tep, the bear kid, is not good enough. This guy rolled to Shi Xiong and stood up, holding his daddy's thighs and yelling, seeming to be complaining that he was not treating him for so long regardless of www.wuxiaspot.com. Especially after feeling the hostility of the soldiers, this guy turned his head and roared at the soldiers a few times. The fierceness of a top beast suddenly undoubtedly revealed. This little guy is just a half-big bear cub, but after all, he is an out-and-out brown bear. Usually it can play with anyone in the tribe. It is really like a pet bear, but once it encounters outsiders, the fierceness deep in its bones will be immediately inspired. "Hey, hey, Smash, don't be like this. These people are your uncles, don't be like this." As he said, Shi Xiong stroked the little guy's forehead while pointing to these people and started introducing them. Hearing the gentle tone of his father, Tep stopped calling, but he still ignored Chief Junaruska and his party. Chief Junaruska's eyes looked straight. "This is a brown bear. I didn't expect the guardian to have a brown bear as a pet." Stone Bear naturally sees that his son is not interested in Chief Junaruska and his party, but after so many days of separation, Stone Bear misses his son and daughter very much. So he wrestled with his hands, lifted Tep directly on his shoulders, and then said to Sheila, "Go, girl. My dad will take you to see new things, but don't be afraid for a while. Whoever pees on his pants, Dad will beat someone." Tep rode on the Stone Bear's neck and yelled "Wow," while Sheila barked twice, seeming to be saying their names are not afraid. Chapter 310, Promotion Problem. The site of this experiment was placed in the wilderness to the north of the tribe. This is all wilderness. At first glance, there is an endless wasteland except the mountains in the distance. Let alone experiment with this kind of simple grenadier here. Even if it is an experiment with a 155mm self-propelled artillery, there is no problem. In addition to making this bullet-throwing barrel, Adian also forged 6 grenades. Because the grenade needs to match the caliber of the tossing barrel, the grenade can't be messed with. Speaking of it, the simple grenadier cast by Adian by Stone Bear is actually quite powerful. After all, the little devil in the historical time and space used the grenades to fire all 91 grenades. There is no stabilized tail. The rear of the grenade cast by Adian has 4 stable tails, which can greatly increase the stability of the grenade's trajectory when flying in the air. Ferguson and Jack Williams heard that the boss came back, and put down their hands to come back to life, so a group of people came to the wilderness together, set up the tossing barrel, and the muzzle was facing the northern wilderness. After Kuema and their 7 or 8 warriors rode their horses to make sure that there was no one in the wilderness, Shi Xiong personally put a second grenade filled with 400 grams of bitter, sour and violent drugs into the barrel, and then ignited it. The fuse. The next moment, accompanied by a not-so-loud blast, a flame was ejected from the barrel. The next moment, the grenade and the barrel disappeared in the air without a trace. About 2 or 3 seconds later, the distance suddenly lit up, and after another 2 seconds or so, a loud sound came over, as if there was a thunderbolt on a sunny day, and Tep, who was squatting next to the Stone Bear, was so scared that he would urinate as soon as he peed. Came out. Shi Xiong smiled and patted Tep, who was so scared that he hugged his thigh without letting go, and then said with satisfaction, "The effect of this experiment is good. The range of this thing should be about 700 meters. This is a very good one." Numbers. 700 meters? Can you reach this far? Edian asked excitedly. You must know that the effective range of the grenades that the boss said can reach 400 meters is considered a success. As a result, I did not expect the range to be nearly doubled, which is close to the range of those 84mm caliber 4-pounder guns. But the power of those 4-pounder guns is absolutely incomparable with this kind of grenades. This is a serious bomb. Although the explosion has not yet been seen, the sound of the explosion just now has proved the power of this grenade. Well, but this should be the maximum range of the tossing barrel. As for the effective range, it is estimated to be closer. However, the specific number will need to be tested before we can get it. Let's go over and see how the explosion works. Everyone got on their horses and galloped towards the smoking place in the distance. When they arrived there, everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. There was a pit about 1 meter in diameter and more than 30 centimeters deep on the ground. With this pit as the center, the weeds within a radius of more than 20 meters all fell radially. The power of this grenade is much more powerful than that of an earthen grenade. Although the earthen grenade is also filled with as many as 62 or 300 grams of black powder, where does the black powder have the bitter power? This grenade is loaded with a full 200 grams of bitter and hard-working medicine, and its explosive power is not worse than that of the 75mm caliber artillery shells used by later Germans. That is to say, if this grenade falls in the crowd, then people within a radius of 20 meters will hardly be able to keep alive. The fact is the same. After everyone arrived here, Kuema found a dead bison in the grass about 30 meters away from the explosion point. This poor bison was too lucky. Its neck was the size of a matchbox. The fragments have penetrated. This is an adult male bison weighing close to 1 ton. It was killed so quietly. It seemed impossible in the eyes of Chief Junaruska. And this just proves the terror of this weapon. This thing doesn't look big or heavy. How can it produce such a lethal power? Chief Junaruska said with a lingering expression on his face, holding the bullet-throwing barrel. This is the horror of hot weapons. The clubs, swords, guns and bows and arrows used by our soldiers are all used with our own strength, and their power is naturally limited. But this thing is inspired by gunpowder, and its power naturally, it is not comparable to a human-driven cold weapon. Just like a firearm, even a child who can shoot with a firearm can kill several strong adult men like me. Chief Junaruska, who said this, was silent for a while, but he didn't admit it and couldn't. The scene before him was bloody, and the eyes of the bison whose neck was shot through by fragments seemed to be a silent accusation. Back to the tribe. All the people of the Gaoshu tribe came to meet the Cherokee chieftain and the current high priest of Bakalazu who came here. This is the first chief to visit in person after the Gaoshu tribe moved here. In the evening, the tribe held an extremely grand bonfire dinner. Barbecues, small stir-fries, cigarettes, and spirits were all presented. It was a delight to eat Chief Junaruska and his party. And when he learned that all this was done by the guardian, he confirmed the title of the guardian as the Son of God in his heart. Chief Junaruska is not a fool. As the chief of a large tribe, he has outstanding judgment. He naturally judged that these magical things were definitely not something ordinary people could make. www.wuxiaspa.com. Even those Vasiku could not make it. And why can the Great Bear, who used to be just a fool, make so many magical things, except for the guidance of the gods? I am afraid that there is no other reason to explain all this in front of me. Guardian, are there many bullets of the kind tested this afternoon? Is it difficult to manufacture? Now that the identity of the big Son of God has been determined in his heart, Chief Junaruska will naturally end up good. This Son of God. Of course, what he cares more about is this kind of hot weapon that the Son of God said. The difficulty of making this kind of grenades is not very difficult. But the ammunition and the raw materials for making grenades are very scarce. With the current capabilities of the Gaoshu tribe, it is temporarily impossible to promote this weapon on a large scale. Shi Xiong didn't mean to conceal it deliberately. Oh, what is missing? Can you tell me something? A lot. For example, iron ore used to make steel, and coke used for smelting fuel. In addition, many of the raw materials used to make ammunition can only be provided by the Old World. We don't have it here at all, relying on salt and cigarettes to trade with those Vasicus. Therefore, it is not realistic to promote this kind of thermal weapon in a short period of time. Shi Xiong's remarks are not nonsense. For example, benzene powder, one of the main raw materials for making bitterness, is not something that the New World can make now, and it can only be obtained from the Old World. If it hadn't been for the 10 pounds of benzene powder when Major Hank came last time, this bit of bitterness would have been impossible. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311, Answer. The explanation of the stone bear made Chief Janaruska's expression a little disappointed. He just saw the power of the grenade fired by the grenadier and filled with bitter hard work. But he didn't know that it would be in this era. If you want to make bitterness and sourness, there will be a big limit. Especially benzene powder. Even in the Old World, benzene powder can only be extracted from coal tar, and the output is very small. Moreover, the purity of benzene powder extracted from coal tar is not high. The real method of extracting high-purity benzene powder from coal tar will not be created by the German Runge until 1834. More than 70 years later. Therefore, even if there is benzene powder in the Old World in this era, the power of bitterness produced cannot be compared with the bitterness that appeared 100 years later. However, in this period, such an unsatisfactory drug was ferocious enough, and once such a drug was applied, it would be so ferocious that even European colonists would retreat. If there is no such raw material, how much can you make with a kind of, you said? Chief Janaruska obviously didn't give up. Not much, Shi Xiong said with certainty. After all, a lot of benzene powder was consumed when studying the formulation of this kind of fierce medicine. Now the remaining benzene powder can only make up to 40 or 50 such grenades. However, the British major with whom we traded salt has already set off for the Old World. In the next 6 months, he should provide us with some benzene powder, but I can't guarantee the quantity. Doesn't that mean that we can no longer use this powerful panacea? Haha, Chief, I can't say that. Even if we don't have grenades made of this kind of explosives, we still have grenades made of black powder and bags of explosives. Although the power of that stuff is not as powerful as this kind of grenade, it can be used. It's more than enough to beat the Cree. Shi Xiong explained with a smile. And then continued, Chief, tomorrow I will show you another weapon that I have developed. Well, by the way, let's test a grenade filled with black powder. It's a big deal. That's it. Ishikame's words are not nonsense. Because he had made earthen grenades before, Shi Xiong knew that if the grenades were filled with more than 400 grams of black powder, they were actually very powerful. After all, the shell of this grenade was cast using fragmentation technology when casting. That is to say, when this grenade explodes, the shell will explode according to the fragment grid reserved during casting. In theory, a grenade can be used. 16 fragments were produced. Of course, if you want to continue to increase the destructive power, then add some iron sand when you fill it with black powder, then the power will be even greater. 400 grams of black powder is enough to completely blast the shell of this grenade. By then, the fragments of the shell of the grenade or the iron sand filled inside will cause huge damage to the enemy. It may not be as powerful as bitter medicine, but the killing effect is definitely good. The most important thing is that the amount of bitterness is limited, but the black powder stone bear has it. Facts have also proved that Shi Xiong's inference is reasonable, because in the next day's test, the explosive effect of this grenade filled with 400 grams of black powder was indeed not as good as the bitter and sour explosive, but when it was filled with a small amount of black powder, after putting the iron sand, the lethality of this thing is not much worse than that of a grenade that is simply filled with bitter drugs. The scattered iron sand and fragments also made a mess near the explosion point. If someone is concentrated near the explosion point, the number of casualties is definitely very considerable. And what shocked Chief Junaruska and his party the most was the power of the conscience cannon. After all, it was a full 10 kilograms of explosives that exploded, and there was also a lot of iron sand and iron fragments stuffed in it. The sound and light effects after the explosion and the situation near the explosion point made Chief Junaruska there. His face has changed. Compared with the grenade, the 10 kilograms of black gunpowder shot by the conscientious gun is undoubtedly better than the grenade. Dear Chief Junaruska, you have seen the weapons in our hands. Then you think that if we have 400 musketeers, plus 100 grenadiers and 10 unscrupulous guns, how many talents do I think the Cree needs to break through our defensive circle? In the council chamber of the Gaoshu tribe, a group of high-level officials from the Gaoshu tribe sat together with Chief Junaruska, and the stone bear was very simple. The question was raised. Don't you always suspect that I cannot lead 1,000 people to conquer the Cree? Then I will let you take a look at the thermal weapon in my hand and see how powerful this thermal weapon is at least 100 years ahead of this era. Now that you see it, it's time to give a definite answer. In fact, before this meeting, Chief Junaruska had discussed with Karaklilu and Bonespear. As a result, the answers given by Karaklilu and Bonespear made Chief Junaruska look very sad. It's not pretty. Because the answer given by these two leaders is very simple. It is almost impossible for a 1,000-man team with such firepower to be breached. Bonespear, the leader of the Bonespear tribe, one of the 4 guardian tribes of the Cherokee royal court, said, if the 5,000 warriors of the 4 guardian tribes are against such a 1,000-man team, then the 5,000 warriors of the 4 guardian tribes, if you can't get close to the 1,000-man team's 300-step range, you'll have to collapse. The power of that small-scale projectile is too terrifying, and the rate of fire is too fast. Our fighters will collapse if they can't stand the damage. As the chief leader of the Red City Alliance, Karaklilu said, it's wrong that all the Cherokee fighters are gathered together, and then they will take turns to attack the position of the 1,000-man team regardless of death. As long as the fighters do not collapse, then it is possible to beat this 1,000-man team. www.wuxiaspa.com. But the proportion of casualties we have paid may reach a point that we simply cannot bear. Although Karaklilu did not give a specific answer to the judgment, the answer he gave made Chief Junaruska's face even more ugly. Are you kidding me? To gather all the fighters of the entire Cherokee tribe, that would be close to 40,000 people. How could so many people gather? Even the few battles that the Cherokee tribe fought with the Powhatans just after they moved south to Monongahela, they never brought all the tribal fighters together. And such a 1,000-man team needs all the fighters of the entire tribe to deal with, which is really terrifying. Precisely because he already had the answer in his heart, Chief Junaruska did not answer Stone Bear's question at all, but simply asked, Guardian, if I give you 1,000 people, plus with the 400 musketeers in your hand, are you really sure to completely defeat the Cree? Shi Xiong smiled and nodded. Although he was smiling, there was a very positive expression in his smile. Dear Chief Junaruska, I think you should have your own judgment for this kind of answer, but since you asked, I still have to tell you with great certainty that I will be sure to defeat the Cree for 1,000 people. If there are more than 400 people, then I will be more certain. After a pause, Shi Xiong thought for a while before continuing, but I still need a few months of preparation time. Once I'm ready, give me another half a year. I can completely convince the Carry people. Chapter 312, Ready to Work. Now that he has decided to fight, Shi Xiong will never stop. Not only the Cree, the French stone bears who are still nostalgic near the river in the west did not intend to let it go. Yu Chiron is certainly the first killer who caused Bai Yun's death, but the French behind the scenes are definitely one of the culprits. The most important thing is that the French have always occupied the coast of the Mississippi River, dividing the entire New World of North America into 2 parts, the East and the West. The Shi Xiong aspirations to dominate the New World of North America will naturally not let go of this stumbling block. Just want to go to war with the French. Now is obviously not the right time. Even if the French lost the 7 Years' War, it is definitely not something that the current Gaoshu tribe can deal with. You have to eat one bite at a time. and you have to walk step by step. It was Shi Xiong's original plan to fight steadily. Since the French are regarded as a mid-term goal, let's train the troops with the short-term goal of the Cree first. It's not good for you to support you, you have to support Yu Chiren. And he dared to send an envoy to threaten him and almost took Lao Tzu away. This matter, my aunt can't bear it, my uncle can't bear it. Since you want to stand up for your little brother so much, you have to be prepared to be smashed when you stand out. What, you said you can't be smashed? Well, then let's ride a donkey and read the songbook, just let's see. Ishikame's definite answer gave Chief Junaruska great confidence. As an ambitious chief, why didn't he want the Cherokee tribe to develop and grow in his hands? Don't think that the Cherokees have been driven to the south for more than 300 years, but every Cherokee chief will never forget the shame of being driven out of the Great Lake by the Iroquois and Delawares. Once they have a chance, they will never let go of their revenge against the Iroquois and the Delaware. There is a great opportunity ahead. If the Guardian Great Bear can really conquer the Carrie with 1,400 people, then the Cherokee will have a great chance of revenge for the Northern Iroquois Alliance. Maybe, the Cherokee can uproot the entire Iroquois League. It was with this idea that Chief Junaruska finally decided to let Stone Bear lead 1,400 people to go around the territory of the Cree in the south. Although the Gaoshu tribe had already taken in a lot of the surrounding small tribes, it was impossible to collect an extra 1,000 people. So, Stone Bear's previous joke to Joe La Cruz immediately became a reality. As the most powerful tribe in this area, the Crooked Deer tribe, also known as the Fall of West Tennessee, eventually became the tribe that joined forces with the Gaoshu tribe. West Tennessee dispatched 1,000 elite fighters, some of whom would practice how to use muskets and how to platoon muskets with the musketeers of the Gaoshu tribe during the period before the expedition. The musketeers of the Gaoshu tribe will select some people to control the grenadier. As for the conscientious cannon, the Stone Bear will also bring 10 doors, but the thing that cannot be used will not be used, only in the most critical situation, the moment it will be used. Conscience cannon is very powerful, but the range is relatively short. The most important thing is that this thing can only be shot a few shots at most, and some even die after one shot. So this thing can only be one of the whole cards. The most commonly used is naturally tossing barrels. After these several trials, some problems with the bullet-throwing barrel have also been exposed. David Adian needs to work with Augusta's alchemists to make corresponding changes to this small but powerful weapon, until this weapon is transformed into a heavy weapon that can be carried by individual soldiers. That's right, because the bullet-throwing barrel fires a flower bullet, it's not in doubt heavy weapon in this era. Its power is even greater than the power of the heavy artillery mounted on ocean-going warships. After all, even the so-called heavy artillery on board ocean-going battleships fired solid rounds. A solid bullet that cannot be exploded, in any case, cannot be compared with the explosive bullet that can explode. It is no exaggeration to say that if the European colonists could get the technology of making grenades and grenades, they would definitely not hesitate to load this weapon on the battleship. Even if the caliber of the grenadier is only 48 mm, it is definitely more powerful than any artillery that fires solid rounds in this era. Ishikame intends to equip the expeditionary army with at least 100 grenades so that it can launch an indiscriminate carpet bombing of the enemy at a distance of 500 meters away from the enemy. Bullet-tossing rounds launches flower bullets. The most important thing is that the launching speed of this thing is much faster than that of a firearm. Although this type of grenadier manufactured with the current technology cannot reach the terrifying firing speed of 30 rounds per minute of the following 8-9 grenadiers, it is still capable of firing 15 or even 20 rounds in 1 minute. It can be done. Even if 100 bullets are fired at a rate of 15 rounds per minute, then 1,500 rounds can be fired in just 1 minute. This rate is definitely not inferior to the effect of later saturated carpet bombing. The most important thing is www.wuxiaspa.com. The effect of this hugely lethal saturated bombing is extremely terrifying. Even the elite troops, once faced with this saturated bombing, will quickly collapse. Later generations of professional modern troops are often bombed to collapse when faced with saturated carpet bombing, not to mention the Indian army of this era, which is indistinguishable from primitive people. It is not an exaggeration to say that the army praises them, and that they are mobs. Once these Indian troops who believe in various gods encounter this kind of bombing comparable to the wrath of the gods in the legend, it will be strange if they do not collapse. In this regard, Shi Xiong is extremely confident. In this age when thermal weapons on the European continent are in the ascendant and most North American Indians have never even seen a musket, this saturated carpet bombing method will definitely scare people to death. Muskets will continue to be manufactured. Ammunitions, homemade grenades, and grenades fired by grenades also require large-scale manufacturing and storage. The cold weapons used by expeditionary soldiers also require large-scale manufacturing equipment, as well as expeditionary forces used to transport materials. The domestication of bison and the food and various materials for the expeditionary army require a lot of preparation, so the Gaoshu tribe must have several months of preparation time. Once the expeditionary forces are equipped with enough hot weapons and a set of cold weapons, then it is the time to expedition to the Cree. At that time, the Cree, who has ruled in the southeast of the New World for a long time, will directly face the anger from the powerful Cherokee in the north, especially the anger of a son of God who is preparing to unify this continent. Chapter 313, Addicted. All of the High Tree tribe brought a huge surprise to Chief Junaruska, High Priest of Bakaruzal, Chief Karaklilu, Chief Bonespear, and the warriors who followed. Although Jolaklilu had just been here some time ago, he didn't have time to see everything in the Gaoshu tribe. In addition, the stone bear was also wary of this guy at that time, so some hidden things were not shown to him. Now the misunderstanding between the two has been completely eliminated. After Shi Xiong successfully challenged the god exemption, Karaklilu directly became Shi Xiong's little brother, and this time Shi Xiong Tuju Chief Narushka and others were invited here to show them these things. Therefore, these things displayed by the Gaoshu tribe directly caused the high-level core figures of the Cherokee tribe to completely overwhelm. If those sharp firearms brought them a huge shock and surprise after the shock, then the delicious and tasty ones in the tribe brought them the purest joy. Whether it's drinks or cigarettes, they have never seen it before. Although they also enjoyed these things at the dinner on the first night when they first came to the Gaoshu tribe, they were preoccupied with things at that time, so they did not savor these good things carefully. And when the things in their hearts are completely put down, and when they come back to enjoy these good things, they can fully feel the magic of these good things. A group of high-ranking tribes, including Chief Junaruska, used to smoke pipes. Where did they see cigarettes? They have smoked pipes for a lifetime since they were young, and they never thought that their own grown tobacco could be processed in this way. Especially the fire folds that swayed or ignited when they were blown, it shocked them as a divine tool. That look was no different from the expression of the people of the Gaoshu tribe when they first saw Huazisi. Momaka led a group of women to brew the high-quality wine, which made the high-level gang drink so much. Compared with Europeans, Indian talents living in the New World of North America are real alcoholics, and they are definitely the kind of masters who will die when they see alcohol. Haven't you seen that even the high priest Bakarazu, who has always been stable, drank several times in a row for several days? In this era, almost no Indians can resist the charm of the offspring of the of fire and the of water. Even the high alcoholic liquor, in the eyes of this group of people, looks like a jade liquid. Nothing else, just drink. Fortunately, the Gaoshu tribe had a good harvest this year in summer and autumn grains, otherwise the wine produced would not be enough for these guys to drink. If there is wine, there must be wine and delicacies. The little fine craftsmanship that the women of the Gaoshu tribe showed to the high-ranking tribes made these guys' mouth full. In the words of the high priest Bakaruzal, compared with these delicious stir-fries, the things I ate before are simply for the dogs. A group of high-ranking tribes expressed their serious agreement with the words of the high priest Bakalutes. Cigarettes, wine, and stir-fries, just these three things have deeply tied the footsteps of Chief Junaruska and his party. Since I decided to stay a few more days from Gaoshu tribe, I should just look at the changes in Gaoshu tribe. So, the little bull nose rings on the noses of the tamed bison once again opened the eyes of Chief Junaruska and his party. They never imagined that these fierce bison would be controlled by such a small iron ring, and they were so cleverly tight, which was really unexpected. However, the labor ability displayed by these tame bison also made a group of high-level tribes secretly startled. In the future, if all the bison in the wilderness is tamed, oh no, even if only a part of it is tamed, then the strength of the Cherokee tribe will get a qualitative change. So Chief Junaruska quietly remembered how to tame the bison. Of course, they also saw the exquisite salt that made people unbearable. Ever since they were young, have they ever seen such exquisite table salt, compared with the large coarse salt particles or salt blocks traded from the Paimon? These white and delicate table salt is simply the best gift given by the gods. But Chief Junaruska knew that even if he learned how to make these exquisite table salt, it might not be easy to promote. After all, this method of making salt is easy to learn, but it's hard to find salt mines like Zoi and Shan that are exposed outside. However, Shi Xiong is still very generous in teaching the method of salt making to Chief Junaruska. Of course, it is very necessary to tell him not to spread the word. Chief Junaruska is not a fool, he knows the benefits of this thing, so how can he spread it out? This method can only be mastered by the Cherokee tribe. As for coking, steel making, cement burning, glass burning, these things are not something that Chief Junaruska and the others can learn. This thing looks simple, but it's really not that easy to make it. The temperature and time required for coking, and the temperature and decarburization process required for steel making cannot be explained by mouth. It can only be mastered with a lot of practical work experience. Anyway, Chief Junaruska and his party are very fortunate for this trip to the High Tree Tribe. www.wuxiaspa.com. Otherwise they will never know that such a magical tribe has appeared under their own rule. Especially Chief Junaruska. He knows very well that if this model of the High Tree Tribe can be promoted to the whole clan, then the rise of the Cherokee tribe will be unstoppable. It's just that he also understands that this model seems to be really impossible to replicate and promote within a certain period of time, which is really a pity. And just as Chief Junaruska and his party were indulging in the changes of the Gaoshu tribe, the chief of the Carey royal family's first guardian tribe at the foot of the Day tribe, Bighorn Sheep, returned with more than a dozen warriors. The royal court of the tribe. From the royal court of the Cherokee to the royal court of the Cree, they need to trek in the mountains for more than half a month, and then walk from the hills and plains for nearly 10 days. The long journey made him weary to death, but when he arrived at the royal court of the tribe, he still didn't care about rest, and went straight to the king's court to meet Chief Colmarco. As a chief who has been handed down for hundreds of years, the current Chief Colmarco has lost the pioneering and fighting spirit of his ancestors. The current Chief Colmarco has completely turned into a fat middle-aged man. Fat man. By the way, the fat chieftain lost his temper after listening to the Bighorn Chief's account, thinking that the neighbors in the north had insulted the Cree tribe, and even wanted to gather the tribal warriors to find face in the north. If it weren't for the Bighorn Chief's high prestige among the tribe, the big fat man was persuaded for life. Maybe the war between the Cree and the Cherokee would really happen a month later. Chapter 314, Persuade. Chief, we can't just take care of the Cherokee. In the empty king's tent, the Bighorn Sheep decisively discouraged the angry Chief Colmarco. Why, Bighorn Sheep, tell me why we can't fight the Cherokee? Now the Cherokee are not comfortable. They have strong enemies to the east and west of the royal court. It is said that the Iroquois alliance in the north. I also looked at this tribe in the alliance. Now it can be said that the Cherokee is the most dangerous time. When will we not attack at this time? Those Cherokees occupy the most in the Appalachian Mountains. Good area. That area should belong to our Carey people. The fat Chief Colmarco stood up angrily and began to pace back and forth in the wide tent. Like the Cherokee in the north, the royal court of the Cree is also a huge animal skin tent. Like the large tribes of North American Indians in this era, The royal courts like to use animal skin tents. This is true for the Cherokee, and the same is true for the Carrie. Looking at the angry chief, the bighorn sheep couldn't help but sigh secretly. This partner, who had been playing big with him since he was a child, seemed to have grown stronger. The most important thing is that he is now becoming less and less able to listen to persuasion. Karmako, will you listen to me, okay? The bighorn sheep obviously didn't want to give up the persuasion of the chief, and said aloud, although he is only the leader of the royal court guarding the tribe, he is also Chief Kolmarko's childhood playmate. The two have been supporting each other since childhood, and their relationship and feelings are naturally different. That's why bighorn sheep will speak to the chief in this tone. The most important thing is that the bighorn sheep drove everyone out of the big tent after entering the big tent of the king's court. Only him and the chief were left in the big tent of the king's court. The words of the bighorn made Chief Carmack stop and turn around to look at him. I just said that the trip to the Cherokee side went smoothly this time, and their chief also promised to bring back the big man who slaughtered the Yuchi tribe, but that big man was terrifying. Really? Terror. How terrifying can it be? Didn't it just break through the challenge of their Cherokee's decree immunity? You haven't fought with that big man before, even if the big man defeated you before, but you also. I've never said anything like this. Bighorn sheep, are you really scared by that person? Chief Carmack interrupted the words of bighorn sheep unceremoniously and began to question. No, that's not the case. The bighorn sheep also stood up and walked in front of Chief Kolmarko in 2 steps. I was terrified by what it showed. Those soldiers were all carrying muskets. What's wrong with this? When you went to the Yuchi clan a few days ago, didn't you also fight against the fighters led by the big man? At that time, you said that those fighters were terrible, and they had Vasiku's muskets. But what's wrong, bighorn sheep? Has your courage and fearlessness been worn out? No, Kolmarko, the courage and fearlessness of the bighorn sheep have never been worn down. I only say these things out of consideration for our soldiers. Kolmarko, you haven't faced those directly. The Cherokee with a musket, I have personally faced it, especially since they have a powerful weapon that can emit thunderous fury, not to mention our soldiers can deal with. You have said all of this, bighorn sheep. I need you to give me an explanation. Why are you preventing me from launching an expedition against the Cherokee? It's not the time yet. Our soldiers need more preparation. Our soldiers need to be equipped with something more effective against Cherokee muskets, so that our soldiers will not be slaughtered by Cherokees with muskets. In front of those muskets, the bone knives and spears in our soldiers' hands are simply not worth mentioning. Without adequate preparation, our soldiers can only be slaughtered in front of those muskets. Kolmarko, I don't allow our soldiers to die in vain. However, there is no victory without sacrifice. Have you forgotten this sentence? Karmako, I can't forget this sentence. This is the advice our ancestors left us. However, sacrifice cannot be sacrificed indifferently. Even if our soldiers sacrifice, they must sacrifice their worth. Let them stand in line. The team used flesh and blood to fight with Cherokee muskets. It was not a sacrifice, it was a death in vain. Kolmarko, you have never seen the power of Cherokee muskets, but I have seen it with my own eyes. Really, it's terrible. No matter how powerful you are no different from a turkey in front of a musket. Kolmarko, we can't let our soldiers die in vain. Bighorn's words calmed Kolmarko's anger a bit. He hesitated and asked, Bighorn, Cherokee muskets are really so powerful? Greater than you think. Last time I directed those Yuchi people to chase down the 100 Cherokee people, more than 1,000 Yuchi people surrounded them on a small river beach. www.wuxiaspot.com. Originally, I thought that the Cherokees could be killed in one effort, but the Cherokees used their muskets to slaughter hundreds of Yuchi under my nose, and the Yuchi were completely destroyed. Those were killed. Although Yuchiren is not a weapon, there are more than 1,000 people in the end. He was killed and collapsed by a few hundred people. This is really horrible. If our fighters meet those muskets, I don't think our fighters will be as good. Where to go? Therefore, we have to find a way to equip our soldiers with equipment that can withstand those muskets. Otherwise we will die in vain. The Words of the bighorn sheep made Marco completely silent. After a long time, he asked, "Then how do we guard against Cherokee muskets? Also, can we find a way to trade some muskets from Vasek who come here? The Spaniards in the south have a lot of muskets. They are active on our territory. Can we trade some muskets with them?" The bighorn sheep shook his head and said, "Chief, I am afraid that it is difficult to deal with the Spaniards. Those Spaniards will not easily trade muskets to us. It seems that those Vasekas would not do this. I think we should think about how to resist those muskets." "Then do you have any ideas?" "I don't have any clues for the time being, but I think if you think about it, you should be able to find a way. This is better than sending our soldiers forward to death, right?" "So, Marco, we can't do it easily. The Cherokees go to war, we still need time to prepare." Chief Marco was completely silent this time. Chapter 315, Powerful Green Skylark. Don't look at the aggressive look of Chief Carmack just now, but the bighorn sheep who has been playing with the chief since childhood knows that this is a kind of performance that his friend and immediate boss is best at. Since he was a child, he has liked all kinds of performances. Whether it's cute or cute, he always comes at his fingertips. If the bighorn sheep knows that a Hollywood will appear in a place called Los Angeles in the westernmost part of this land in 150 years, then the bighorn sheep will definitely understand that his friend will have a special name in later generations by nature. Show. When Marco's father, the previous Chief Marco, was appointed heir, it was because he was too good at acting, so in the end the chieftain's throne fell under his ass. And usually, once something major happens in the tribe, this good friend will always rely on various plays to let his subordinates do certain things willingly. I have to say that being able to act for a lifetime is also a skill. It's just that, now there are only the two of us in the entire big account, and I know how many scorpions grow on your ass. Why are you still acting this with me? The bighorn sheep will naturally not say this. After all, the majesty of friends needs to be maintained. This point, the bighorn sheep can still distinguish and understand. Marco, maybe we trade muskets from the Spaniards. Those Spaniards will not agree, but if we can develop a device that can withstand musket shooting, we can discuss with the Spaniards and use them to test our new equipment. If our new equipment can withstand the firing of the musket, or can reduce the power of the musket to a minimum, then we are sure to go to war with the Cherokee. Bighorn sheep continued. Chief Marco nodded silently. Why didn't he know that the neighbor to the north was a very powerful tribe? Even though the Cree tribe is already very powerful, it does not have any advantage compared to the neighbor in the north. The two powerful tribes have been able to maintain a delicate balance for hundreds of years. In fact, the most fundamental reason is that both sides know each other's strengths. Of course, if the two tribes really fight desperately, one tribe will definitely win the final victory, but even if it is a victory, it is definitely a tragic victory, and the probability is very small. The greatest probability is that both lose, and then the two powerful tribes will be immediately annexed or expelled by the surrounding small and medium tribes. It is precisely because both sides know this truth and are jealous of each other, that has allowed the two powerful tribes to maintain a non-aggression situation during these centuries. How could Chief Carmack not know that the mere Yuchi could not bring two powerful tribes to war? It's just that, as the chief of a big tribe, he must express his attitude. Looking at the serious bighorn sheep, Marco suddenly felt a little guilty. He could only smile awkwardly and said, "Then how about this matter? Please do it for you." "What do you need?" "The full support of the tribe." The bighorn sheep froze for a moment, then nodded silently. What happened in the King's End of the Cree tribe, the stone bear far north of the Great Smoky Mountain would naturally not know. He is having a headache with the girl, Green Skylark. When Chief Junaruska and the others were there, the girl was quite regular, but Chief Junaruska and the others also heard about the relationship between the two brothers and the guardian Great Bear, but they didn't mind. Her siblings are Chickasaws. In fact, there are more than 200 Chickasaws in the Gaoshu tribe, all women and children from the Zio tribe. Chief Junaruska, They saw so many women and children integrated into the Gaoshu tribe. They were too happy to be too late. How could they object? As native Indians, in their minds, the main purpose of war between tribes is not to kill each other, but to conquer and merge each other. That is the greatest victory. Population is always the most important to the North American Indian tribes of this era. This is also why after wars between North American Indian tribes usually end with the departure of the failed tribes, there are very few cases of rushing to extinction. The High Tree tribe can merge so many Chicashes without starting a war. This is a great achievement in itself. Who cares about anything else? Especially as people who come by, how can Chief Junaruska and the others fail to see how the beautiful girl, Green Skylark, thinks about the guardian? Her twin sister is the lover of the guardian, and now her sister is gone. Isn't it right that the sister who is almost identical to her sister will succeed her sister? Because Chief Junaruska and the High Priest Bakaruzal guarded the face of the stone bear and teased the Green Skylark. After Chief Junaruska and his party left the High Tree tribe, the Green Skylark got it. Shang Fang's sword, which had been a little concealed, immediately became upright. Shi Xiong also knew the girl's thoughts, but his heart was all filled with Bai Yun. How could he act on Bai Yun's sister? Although the sister-in-law's is half that of her brother-in-law, the problem is that Shi Xiong can't really get around this curve now. Even the little brother-in-law, Gaoshu, encouraged Shi Xiong to pull the second sister Green Skylark into Shi Xiong's house, but Shi Xiong just couldn't do it. But Shi Xiong's retreat did not make Green Skylark any concessions www.wuxiaspot.com but made this girl even worse. No matter whether it is cooking or washing, this girl is almost rounded up. And what she did is called no regrets and no regrets. Originally, there were a few unmarried girls in the Gaoshu tribe who also wanted to chat with the guardian lord, but the Green Skylark was very sturdy and came to the door to fight with others, scared the little girls one by one, flinched. Then Green Skylark started to take care of the stone bear exclusively, and she was still doing it like drinking sweets. What can Shi Xiong do besides a wry smile? Shi Xiong, who knows the girl very well, knows that if he refuses very strongly, given the girl's temperament, he can do something bad. So this matter can only be delayed slowly. Anyway, when the spring blossoms next year, I will lead the team to go out again. Can you not afford to hide it if you can't afford it? And now the most important task is to train the 1,000 soldiers who came from the west of Tennessee as soon as possible. With these 1,000 Tennessee fighters and the 400 musketeers of the Gaoshu tribe, it is to conquer Carry, the root of human beings. Shi Xiong has never doubted whether a mere 1,400 people can conquer the Cree, which is close to 100,000 in number. If there were musketeers alone, Shi Xiong would not dare to make a guarantee. But now that he had a longer range and more powerful grenadier, then Shi Xiong had more confidence in conquering the Cree with such a small number of people. I dare not say that it is a 10% certainty, but the 90% certainty Shi Xiong is still very certain. Chapter 316, Not Convinced. As the leader of the Crooked Deer's tribe, which is the western Tennessee, Karaklilu personally returned to the tribe to select 1,000 elite warriors from the tribe, and then led them through the Big Bend to the Gaoshu tribe. As the largest tribe among the Cherokee tribe, the western Tennessee has a size of nearly 3,000 people, and because they are at the front line of fighting with the Chicashes, there are many warriors in the tribe. 1,000 warriors are nothing to the Crooked Deer's tribe. It's just that once the Crooked Deer's tribe selects so many fighters, this winter will only be defensively weak for the Chicashes. But it doesn't matter. Now the Chicashes are fighting with the Missouri and Kentucky coalition forces. Even if they drive the Missouri and Kentucky coalition forces out of their territory, it will take a long time to repair. The coalition of the Missourians and Kentucky is not vegetarian, although they are fighting away from home and the number is much smaller than that of the Chicasses. They are more mobile and united, so they are able to entangle with the Chicasses. In other words, at least this winter, the Chicashes will not have time to take care of the Cherokee in the east. For the Great Bear, Joe La Cruz has a very strange feeling. At the beginning, he accepted the order of Chief Junaruska in the royal court of the tribe, and asked him to go to the tribe of Kabilu high priests to take someone away. Originally, Kealoklelu was still a little puzzled about this order. At any rate, he was also the leader of the top 3 large tribes in the entire clan, and he was also the leader of the Red City Alliance. Why did the chief give such a bad task to himself? What? Therefore, when Kealoklelu first arrived at the High Tree tribe, there was still a bit of resentment in his heart. Especially for the goal of that mission, that is, the big man who is the guardian of the Kabru high priest. To be honest, Kealoklelu was very upset at first. But later, as the more contact with this big man, the more things he saw, especially when talking with this big man on the road and the 50 musketeers under this big man, Kealoklelu realized that his opinion of the big man seemed to be prejudiced. Gradually, Kealoklelu's views on this big man changed more and more. After the big man successfully challenged the divine will exemption, Kealoklelu directly became the little brother of the stone bear. It is a very lucky thing to be able to witness a person's success in challenging the divine will exemption. And when Kealoklelu saw the series of changes in the High Tree tribe, he admired the stone bear even more. If the stone bear told him at the beginning that he would unite with the Crooked Deer tribe to conquer the Cree, Kealoklelu thought the big man was joking, but now, Kealoklelu is very eager to protect him as soon as possible. Masters went out together, and then went to completely conquer the mighty Cree. As for whether or not to conquer the powerful Cree, Kealoklelu has no trace of worry now. Just kidding. After seeing those infinitely powerful heat weapons comparable to the methods of the gods. If you are still worried about whether you can conquer the Cree, then you are too mentally retarded. Okay. Now Kealoklelu even has a magical hunch. He has a foreboding that he will be lucky enough to fight with the Guardian this time, and maybe he will become a legend in the future. Therefore, as the leader of the Red City Alliance and the leader of the Crooked Deer's tribe, Kealoklelu is now willing to serve as the Guardian's deputy. And he never thinks that there is anything wrong with acting as a deputy to the Lord Guardian. That big man is the Son of God who successfully challenged the divine decree exemption. To use the jokes of the Posterity Network, buddy, this is for the Son of the Supreme Son to be his deputy. Who else can have such a blessing? It's just that Kealoklelu thought and did it this way. The fighters under him didn't want to do it that way in the first place. As the most powerful tribe in this area, the warriors of the Crooked Deer tribe also have their own pride. Although they knew that the Gaoshu tribe was the tribe of the great Kabru high priest, they also knew that the warriors of the Gaoshu tribe were really infatuated. Otherwise, it wouldn't be their Crooked Deer tribe being the most powerful tribe in this area. Therefore, when it was learned that they came to the High Tree tribe this time to assist the High Tree tribe's fighters, if the prestige of Kealoklelu was not too high, these fighters would have to die. What's a joke? Let's give them a helping hand. Is this a joke? What is it? So Cuckoo and a few warriors, contacted privately, and prepared to show the gang of turtles in the Gaoshu tribe some color when the leader was no longer there, so that they could see that they were fighting the Chikashes all the year round on the front line. The elite fighters are so powerful. Well, there is also the guardian of the high priest Kabru. Don't think that you can do whatever you want by becoming the guardian of the high priest of Kabru. If you don't have the ability, don't want to command the elite of our Crooked Deer tribe. Although the leader said that the guardian was a terrifying big man, and he even succeeded in challenging the divine decree exemption, these remarks still cannot make these unruly warriors bow their heads. www.wuxiaspot.com, especially the leader of these warriors, that is, those warriors Cuckoo even more so. Therefore, when Shi Xiong saw this group of elite fighters, he was secretly praising the group of fighters for their excellence. Cuckoo and the 4 fighters stood up and unanimously expressed their desire to see the power of the Guardian. Shi Xiong knew what they meant when they heard the words of these 4 big men. These warriors say they are better called warriors, but they are bad guys who just know how to fight. Otherwise, these warriors in later generations would not have a resounding nickname Kyuba, or. Although these people are not afraid of death when facing the enemy, most of them are very upright and reckless and don't know how to advance or retreat. In their eyes, the one with the big fist is the king of heaven. Lao Tzu. Your fist is not as big as Lao Tzu? Then you are not qualified to be the boss, you can only be the grandson. Now a guardian of a small tribe suddenly jumped out to be their boss. Although this big man seemed to be really uncomfortable, none of these warriors showed back. Is a mule as a horse drawn out, yo? Since you want to be the boss of Lazy, you have to show Lazy how capable you are. If you don't have the ability, you can let it out of the boss's seat, and then go to be a grandson. Therefore, the 4 most powerful warriors of the Crooked Deer tribe among the 1,000 warriors stood up. As the warriors kui, the 4 of them must weigh the weight of this big man for the brothers. Chapter 317, Hard Work. And hearing that these 4 warriors kui wanted to represent the 1,000 elite warriors of the Crooked Deer tribe to see the warriors of the Gaoshu tribe and the strength of the guardian, not only Shi Xiong smiled, but dozens of others stood beside him. The warrior of the Gaoshu tribe who was about to train also smiled. Others don't know the horror of Lord Guardian, but these dozens of warriors of the Gaoshu tribe know it. Did you really blow out his feat of killing 100 people in the Zio tribe? Do you really think he was mixed with water when he challenged the divine decree immunity in the royal court of the tribe? Just kidding. Just because the 4 of you want to see the force of such a human-shaped beast like the Guardian, isn't it the light of lanterns in the hut of Shiguchulang looking for death? Day is not as strong as the other 3 kui, but he is the kui with the highest strength among the 4 warriors of the Crooked Deer tribe, and he is also ranked first in the Crooked Deer tribe. Warrior, the most important thing is that this guy is not only courageous, but also strategic. He is a rare character with both civil and military skills. He is highly valued by Joe Laklilu in the Crooked Deer's tribe, and his prestige is also extremely high. But the disadvantage of this guy is that he has too much self-confidence and too much courage. To apply the jokes of later generations of the internet, this guy may know Liang Jingru. It was Day that proposed to see the Guardian's force. In Day's own words, Lao Tzu has only served the leader of Kiao Lakrilu in this life. If others want Lao Tzu to bow down and be obedient, they must beat Lao Tzu first. So, under Day's secret arrangement, today's scene appeared. The warriors from the Crooked Deer's tribe would naturally not object to Day's arrangement. They also wanted to see how powerful the guardian of the legendary Kabru high priest was, and how could he rule us. Day naturally saw the gloating smiles on the faces of dozens of warriors in the Gaoshu tribe, which made him even more furious. How is it, Master Guardian? Can you show something to convince us brothers? If you can't show your due performance, although we will accept your leadership, you think this is the result, is it okay? Don't forget, we have 1,000 people. Day is already in a situation where he can't go up and down, so he naturally wants to be tough. For this kind of almost stunned behavior, Shi Xiong is also helpless. Your name is Day, right? Chief Joe Laklilu doesn't know about this, right? Master Guardian, please don't involve this matter with our leader. Yes, he really doesn't know about this matter. But we brothers really want to see who can break through the exemption of God's will. How powerful. Of course, if your warriors from the High Tree tribe can show us the warriors of the Crooked Deer tribe, we will be even happier. Happy? You concealed it from Chief Joe Laklilu and wanted to see my force so much, just for your happiness? Shi Xiong's expression became extremely exciting, and after a rhetorical question, he finally sighed heavily. He continued. If you want to see my force, there is no problem, but do we want to add some color? Can't I show you like a monkey to make you happy? You don't pay anything, right? Master Guardian, we don't want you to perform. The 4 of us want to challenge you, Day said in a deep voice. It doesn't matter, it means the same thing anyway. Shi Xiong waved his hand and said, I have hundreds of thousands of people a minute, where can I waste time here? So, if you want to challenge it, you have to add something, too. Otherwise if you don't accompany you. What, are you scared? Day naturally didn't understand the hundreds of thousands a minute talk, but instead wanted to anger the stoned bear. Ha ha. Shi Xiong hit the sky with a ha ha, and the dozens of guys from the Gaoshu tribe beside him also laughed, as if they had heard the most weird joke in the world. Whatever you say, but without a lottery, I won't sign with you, that's boring. Shi Xiong threw down this sentence and turned and left. I'm kidding. I don't have time to spend time with you here, Tang. You mention the conditions. As long as you can convince the four of us, you can mention the conditions. Seeing that Shi Xiong was about to leave without hesitation, Day said in a deep voice. Shi Xiong stopped, and slowly turned around, with a smile on his face and asked, really let me mention it? As long as you can defeat the four of us, we will agree to whatever conditions you offer, Day said with certainty, and the large group of warriors who had just arrived and the Gaoshu tribe behind him shouted in unison, roar. Shi Xiong smiled, put in his mouth, and blew a loud whistle. A sound of horseshoes suddenly came from a distance. After a while, the fiery red wind of fire came from a distance, ran over. The appearance of the fire wind also made the eyes of most of the tribal warriors of the outer ears bright. Although their tribe has very few war horses, this does not prevent them from seeing that Huofeng is a good horse, a really good horse. Shi Xiong patted Huofeng's big head affectionately and scratched it again. Then he took down the big bow on Huofeng's back, and then he hugged the big bow and said, okay, that's what you said. Yes, let me talk about my conditions. Very simple. If any of you can pull this big bow, then my great bear will follow your command from now on. From then on, I will go wherever you ask me great bear to go. Where? Even if I jump off the cliff, I will definitely obey the order. I can swear to the great sun god. After a pause, Shi Xiong looked at Day and the group of soldiers behind him, and his voice became serious. If none of you can pull this big bow, then you must unconditionally obey my orders in the future. www.wuxiaspad.com. Even if I ask you to line up to jump off the cliff, you must execute my order without resistance. How can you do it? If you can't, just go to the camp over there for repairs. Don't engage in such unquestionable things here. Undoubtedly, how can this be an unquestionable thing? Day and the warriors of the Crooked Ears tribe all turned ugly. If one of us pulled this bow, you would really do what you said. Do that? Shi Xiong shook his head, and then spit out disdainfully, Day, are you still a man? What a man says is a nail on a wooden plank. How can he say nothing? Oh, yes, you may not know what a nail is. Shi Xiong's actions made Day almost explode, and he immediately shouted, okay, it's on this condition, we promise. Well, that's good. As long as any of you can pull this big bow, I will listen to you. If none of you can pull this big bow, then you must obey me unconditionally. Yes, forget it. I'm telling you, this big bow is my special big bow. I used this big bow to shoot 2 chiefs of Yukai and a dozen tribal leaders. Now, don't you want to see my force? Okay, pull open this bow. Shi Xiong suddenly felt that his original idea of building this big bow was simply great. This big bow can not only kill people, but can also be thrown out as a shield when necessary. First in the Zhou tribe, then in the royal court, and now here again. This big bow can be described as a hard work content. Super Chief, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318. Angry. Haha, it's fun now. Can someone else pull the bow of the Guardian? That is, if any of them can pull off the Guardian Sama's bow, you can ask me to kowtow to him and call him Abba. A bunch of fools who don't know the heights of the sky dare to compete with Master Guardian. Oh, it's another group of guys who don't know how to die. With the departure of the stone bear, the warriors who stood by without a word and watched the lively Gaoshu tribe immediately became lively, but the words they said fell in Day and their ears, which was too ugly. Uncle Day, let me try it. I don't believe it. Isn't it just a bigger bow? Why can't it be pulled? With this voice, a tall and strong young man walked up behind Day, but in terms of size, this guy definitely has a lot of brute force. Day turned his head when he heard the words, then nodded and said, Dgi, you can try it. Uncle Day, I have told you how many times, don't call me a dog. I am the bravest fierce dog under the command of the river god. Please call me a fierce dog. The group of people around Day laughed, and the atmosphere suddenly eased. This young big man is called Fierce Dog. His father and mother died young. He was raised by Day since he was a child. So in Day's mouth, this young and strong big man became a dog, but the other warriors of the tribe did not dare to call him that, because this guy is not only tall and powerful, but also extremely fierce. He is Day's most proud successor, and is very likely to become the new warrior Cuckoo in a few years. Day also smiled and patted the Fierce Dog on the shoulder, and then handed the heavy bow over. Fierce Dog spit in the palm of his hand, took the big bow, and then said in surprise, "This bow is so heavy," then separated his hands, holding the bow in one hand, and the other hand with the rock finger hooped the bowstring twisted with 4 beef tendons. He drank from his mouth, and the muscles of both arms suddenly tensed. It can be seen that the Fierce Dog has already used a lot of strength to pull this bow. The strength of the Fierce Dog is well known in the entire Crooked Deer's tribe. If the strength of the entire tribe is simply compared, there are definitely no more than 3 people who can match this young warrior. No one thinks that a Fierce Dog can't pull this bow. But the facts quickly slapped everyone who thought that way in the face. A Fierce Dog with brute force pulled the big bow a little bit more than half, and then let the Fierce Dog blush with a thick neck. That big bow, it just can't be opened. In the end, the Fierce Dog almost suffocated the shit, and didn't pull the big bow even a little more. He had no choice but to give up the attempt, shaking his arms and returning the big bow to Day. "Uncle Day, this bow is too powerful, I can't pull it away." The unconvinced look of Zangu just now has been completely gone, replaced by a look of shame. But at this time, no one paid attention to him anymore, and everyone's mind was attracted by this black big bow. This bow is so powerful, can't even the Fierce Dog pull it? Could it be that this fellow Fierce Dog took too long with the wife he just brought home, and spent all his energy on his wife? There was a burst of laughter, and the Fierce Dog's face was blue and red, and he shouted angrily, "Fart! I didn't put my strength on the woman. This bow is too powerful. If any of you can pull it away, I call his dead." The laughter sounded again. But when another strong man took the big bow, the laughter stopped. This man is called Mad Naiu. He is the worthy #1 strong man in the Crooked Deer tribe and the second-ranked warrior Cuckoo. "Brother Day, I'll try this bow," Mad Cow said calmly. "Hold it hard. This bow is really strange. You know the strength of the dog. He can't pull it. This bow must be unusual," Day whispered. Crazy Bull nodded, and when his arms were struggling, the long bow was pulled open more than half of the time, which was a little bigger than the one that the Fierce Dog opened just now. There was a burst of applause from everyone, but then the applause was like a turkey caught in the neck, and stopped abruptly. Because Mad Cow pulled the big bow for more than half a time, but he wanted to continue to pull the bow, but he couldn't do it anyway. This bow is no different from weightlifting. When you have enough strength, you can naturally draw this long bow, but even if your strength is short of a trace, you can't open it if you can't open it. The strength of the Mad Cow is indeed greater than the strength of the Fierce Dog, but it is not several times larger, so this long bow is still not able to be opened by his strength. Actually, let alone him, the person who can open this bow on this continent, I am afraid that there will be no other person besides Stone Bear, unless there is still someone with amazing physique and amazing strength like Shi Xiong. After all, this long bow was tailored by Shi Xiong based on his actual situation. Crazy Bull didn't open the big bow, and immediately silenced everyone in the Crooked Deer tribe, and even Day's brows frowned. But he didn't even try to open the big bow. I'm reading www.whocanshu. He knows very well that his strength is not comparable to that of Mad Cow. Even if he is a godson, he can't compare to him. Now that neither of them can open this big bow, Day knew that the possibility that he could open this big bow was infinitely close to zero. "Uncle Day, is there a problem with this bow?" Some young fighters approached and asked in a rush, but there was only one core meaning, that is, these young people suspected that there was a problem with the bow. This is human nature. Whoever encounters this kind of situation will subconsciously think so. Day shook his head with a heavy face and said, "It should not be." The Guardian also said just now, He used this big bow to shoot 2 chiefs of Yukai. We also know about this. That means this big bow. No problem. If there is a problem, it is that the power of the Guardian is far greater than we thought. At this moment, Zhou Lakrilu, who had just gone to meet Hong Yun, hurried over. He heard about what happened here on the way, so when he came here, he immediately cursed, you guys who don't know life and death, dare to compete with Master Guardian? Do you really think you have been favored by the great sun god? Damn, I don't know what to say about you. And you, Day, how can you be such a fool? Zhou Laklilu said angrily. It seems that he is really outraged, otherwise he wouldn't say this kind of confusing remarks. But these fighters can understand what the leader said, that is, the leader is very angry now, very angry at their actions to provoke the Guardian for no reason. Chapter 319, Order Prohibition. Of course Zhou Laklilu was angry. One was that he was worried that this incident would anger the Guardian, and the other was that he didn't want his subordinates to lose face in the High Tree tribe. No one else has seen the power of this big bow, but Zhou Laklilu has seen it with his own eyes. When in the royal court, the Guardian threw this big bow, and as a result all the powerful warriors in the entire royal court lost a big face. The leader of the tribe, who was even as powerful as the bone spear, was helpless with this bow, and even Chief Junaruska, who was carrying the bone spear to open the bow, lost his face once, and Zhou Laklilu didn't want to be ashamed of himself. In the end, I didn't expect that one didn't notice, but the men who had been fighting on the front line all the year round died. Seeing these men blushing one by one, Zhou Laklilu could only hold back the anger in his stomach and turned it into a long sigh. In the future, remember that you must respect the Guardian. The Guardian's ability is not what you can imagine. This big bow is just a little manifestation of the Guardian's strength. You will know this Guardian in the future. Lords is so powerful. Not only Lord Guardian, but even the fighters he trained are extremely powerful, Zhou Laklilu said sincerely. Seeing a trace of dissatisfaction on the faces of some of the fighters, Zhou Laklilu glared at those fighters and said, if you are not convinced, you will be able to see it later. The musketeers who went to the Gaoshu tribe are so powerful. Seeing that his leader said so seriously, the soldiers who had been unconvinced on their faces took it seriously. Behind them, they really saw the power of the musketeers of the Gaoshu tribe. Ishikama left before to arrange this. He could see that the 1,000 warriors from the Crooked Deer tribe who followed Zhou Laklilu are indeed elite, and they have definitely seen blood. But also, it is not so easy for such fighters to convince them. Shi Xiong never thought that a big bow could convince all these fighters. He threw the big bow just to get a fair and honest name. Now this name is there, but if you want these elite fighters to be truly convinced, you have to show them a stronger presence. This existence is the 400 musketeers of the Gaoshu tribe. Speaking of, the musketeers of this era have stricter requirements for actual combat and orders. In this era, when the firing rate of muskets is generally only 3 rounds per minute, one can only rely on the style of platoon guns to ensure the density and consistency of bullets. If the musket of this era cannot guarantee the density and consistency of the bullets, it is no different from the fire stick. Therefore, the platoon gun is now the most popular combat method in the entire European continent. It's okay for my musket to fire slowly. I'll take turns. If 2 platoons are not enough, I will get 4 platoons, 6 platoons, or even more musketeers. The famous Spanish square formation is the peak performance of platoon guns. Although Shi Xiong now has a rear-mounted rifled gun that is decades ahead of this era, the rate of fire of the musket still cannot reach the level that it can block the enemy from 100 meters away without using a platoon gun. Soldier training is still platooning guns. But if you want to fire the platoon guns, continuously, you must have strict orders and a group of soldiers who strictly execute the orders. Especially the latter is the most important thing. Shooting platoon guns in this era is a very dangerous job. After all, the range of muskets in this era is about the same as that of bows and arrows in the hands of North American Indians. Even if it is far away, it is far too limited. When the musketeers faced a large number of Indians who were far more numerous than themselves, painted fancy patterns on their faces, and held weapons such as bows and arrows and bone spears. The psychological pressure was quite great. And the effective range of the guns before firing in this era is generally only 90 meters, and the range of bows and arrows in the hands of the Indians can reach about 70 or 80 meters. The safe distance between the two is only less than 20 meters. Many times the musketeers can't even rotate the first two rows, and the enemy rushes within the range of their bows and arrows. Once the enemy rushed into this distance, the musketeers would face casualties or even great casualties. The reason why people are people is because people think more. Do animals still know how to escape when facing life and death crisis, let alone people? So at this time, once the musketeers suffered heavy casualties, the entire musketeer army would face a situation of collapse. If you want to not collapse, one is that the soldiers are elite enough to strictly execute the orders, and the other is that the soldiers must have the courage and spirit to stay in danger. The former is easy to say, and it can be achieved through continuous training, but the latter is hard to say. It must be through continuous actual combat, so that they can continue to face the situation in order to exercise. This is why the veterans of World War I and World War II would appear so calm when facing life and death. These veterans who are used to seeing the enemy and their comrades die are already numb to their own life and death. The musketeers of the Gaoshu tribe are obviously not up to the level of veterans, but it is not a problem to train them to be a group of soldiers who strictly follow the orders. www.wuxiasput.com. At the beginning, 30 soldiers from the Gaoshu tribe were on an expedition to the Yuchi people. The approach is undoubtedly very correct. These 30 fighters participated in the expedition against the Yukai people and were fully trained from the actual combat perspective. The most important thing is that these 30 fighters are like seeds, taking root among the 400 musketeers, and then they can lead and protect a group of rookies on the battlefield to grow rapidly. These 30 fighters have all gone through several battles, especially in the few days when they attacked the court of Yuchi and finally escaped from birth. These 30 fighters even fully understood how to use the gun battle formation, how to fight platoon guns, and how to keep the proper composure when facing enemies 10 times or even 10 times more than one's own. Through those few battles, although they could not really transform into a veteran, they can already be called a qualified fighter. With these 30 soldiers as instructors, it is equivalent to having 30 outstanding instructors out of 400 musketeers. Even if one person takes 12 people, these 400 musketeers can at least become a group of recruits who know the orders and prohibitions after months of rigorous training. As long as participating in a few battles, these recruits will soon grow into a qualified soldier, and then grow into a real elite veteran. Although these 400 musketeers can only reach the standard of recruits for later generations, compared to the group of soldiers of the Crooked Deer tribe, these 400 musketeers are undoubtedly the elite of the elite. They will also let the 1,000 warriors from the Crooked Deer tribe take a look at what is called discipline and what is called prohibition. Chapter 320. This is to obey orders. In the entire winter training this year, about 400 of you will become musketeers, but whether you can become a qualified musketeer is not determined by me, but by your own performance. If you can do what they did, then you can be selected from among these 1,000 people and become a musketeer. Stone Bear's voice echoed in this huge training base, but not far from him in that area. The 1,000 warriors from the Crooked Deer tribe looked at the team in front of them with a little dumbfounded. Although walking in step can't be compared with walking in step, when 400 people walked by in front of the 1,000 people with neat steps and shouting loud chants, the momentum still made the warriors of the tribe of 1,000 Crooked Deers look dumbfounded. Where have they seen such a neat team? In the past, whether they were hunting or fighting with the Chicashes, they had always been in a turbulent area. There were no arrays or tactics, and some only had the blood and the courage to fear death. But this kind of aura, which is completely different from the blood and courage to fear death, made this group of talented men look straight. They couldn't think of it anyway. It was just a trivial walk that they could get out of such a momentum. These guys are not fools. They are sturdy warriors who have killed people and have seen blood. Although they don't know the use of such a neat array, their instinct tells them that such a neat array is very useful. Absolutely very useful. Anyway, these guys knew that they couldn't get out of such a neat array. See, this neat array is also a kind of powerful. This array is different from the advocacy of personal force that you used to prevail, but this type of array can integrate the force of all people and disperse the scattered personal force, fusion into a powerful collective, so as to exert greater strength. Shi Xiong's voice continued to echo. It's like these wooden sticks. A wooden stick with a thick thumb appeared in Shi Xiong's hand like a trick, and everyone's eyes were focused on his hands. You can easily break a stick like this. As he said, Shi Xiong gently broke his hands, and the stick was broken easily. But, what if 10 sticks like this? What about 20 sticks like this? A stick of almost the same thickness appeared in Shi Xiong's hand suddenly, which looked like more than 10 sticks. I broke this stick, but everyone could tell that the difficulty was much greater than that of the stick just now. And when the wooden stick in the guardian's hand was added, let alone breaking, he couldn't hold it. Any one of you alone is like a stick like this, so a person can easily be killed by others, but when you are tightly united, there is no suspicion or conflict between each other, then no one can defeat you. Shi Xiong shamelessly moved the Chinese chopsticks theory with a slight modification, but the effect was obviously very good. This can be known from the expressions of thinking on the faces of most of the 1,000 warriors of the Crooked Deer's tribe. But, it is a pity that if these fighters of the Gaoshu tribe have formed a qualified wooden stick, then you do not even have the qualifications to become a wooden stick. You are still far from becoming a wooden stick. Go far. Shi Xiong didn't let the soldiers let go because they started thinking, but poured a basin of cold water directly on it. Sure enough, when these words were spoken, many men from the Crooked Deer tribe showed anger on their faces. In terms of individual strength, these guys from the Crooked Deer tribe are much better than the vast majority of guys from the Gaoshu tribe, and they certainly don't want to listen to this kind of words. You are definitely not convinced by what I said at this time, but it is the case. If you can do what they do, then you are qualified to be a qualified stick. Look, see how they do it. 3rd Squadron, get out. With a loud shout from the Stone Bear, 50 soldiers with muskets were immediately separated from the 400 musketeers, and they walked aside in neat steps. If you want to become a qualified soldier, the first thing you must do is to fully obey the orders of your superiors. Even if your superiors ask you to jump off the cliff, you have to do it without reservation. Only a soldier who fully obeys the orders is a soldier. Qualified soldiers. Shi Xiong looked at the crowded crowd in front of him and continued loudly. Maybe you think this is a kind of nonsense, but what I want to tell you is that if you want to follow me to conquer the Carry people, the first thing you have to learn is to obey orders. Keep obeying orders, just like them. As he said, Shi Xiong turned his head and shouted at the soldiers of the 3rd Squadron who had already left the queue. All the 3rd Squadron has it. Turn right, trot forward. The trench is 50 steps ahead of the target. The 50 soldiers of the 3rd Squadron immediately turned right when they heard the words, and then began to trot. Even if they were running, they still maintained a neat array. And the trench that Shi Xiong said is right next to the 1,000 warriors of the Crooked Deer tribe. After these 1,000 soldiers came to this training ground, they found this huge trench with a width of more than 4 meters and a depth of almost 4 meters. They don't know how this ditch came, but they all know that this ditch is not easy to live with. If you fall down, you can break your leg and arm. If such a big ditch appeared in front of me during previous battles www.wuxiaspa.com. I didn't say anything, just go around it. I would never jump in. It's a fool who jumped. This is what most of the guys of the Crooked Deer tribe think in their hearts. But when they saw that the 50 men from the 3rd Squadron ran up to the big ditch, they didn't even pause and jumped down. They all exclaimed involuntarily. Seeing one by one the big living people just jump off the edge of the ditch without hesitation, the guys from the Crooked Deer's tribe were really shocked. This is a big ditch more than 4 meters deep. Although the bottom of the ditch is covered with sand and thick leaves, it is after all a big ditch more than 4 meters deep, not a common small river ditch. If 1 or 2 jumped down because they could not hold their feet, then when almost all the fighters jumped down, They realized what the guardian just said: the trench beyond 50 steps in front of the target means. They vaguely understood what the guardian said before obeying orders without reservation should be. If the leader or cuckoo forcibly ordered himself to jump this big ditch, maybe he would choose to jump down eventually, but he would definitely not be able to jump down without hesitation like these guys from the High Tree tribe, and he would still line up. The team jumps down. This is almost the thought in the minds of all the guys of the Crooked Deer's tribe. But those guys not far away who jumped down one after another without hesitation are shocking to their hearts. Don't want it. Chapter 321. Explanation. When the 50 men of the 3rd Squadron were pulled out of the trench by the other men, the warriors of the Crooked Deer's tribe who saw the situation of the 50 men took a breath. Except for a few of the 50 men who are fine, almost everyone else has injuries. Some had a broken foot, some had a bruise and swollen face from the fall, some had a bruised skin on their body, and a few unlucky ones had broken bones. But even so, after being pulled out of the trench, the 50 men still lined up at the fastest speed. The few fractured men were standing in the line with their teeth and being supported by their comrades. Once the line stood up, the bodies of these men never moved again, just like a statue. The warriors of the Crooked Deer's tribe were shocked to see them, but people in the leadership class like Kara Klelu and De Samar in this demonstration. All the injured people in the 3rd Squadron can get 3 days of rest. If the bone is broken, they will return to the team after they are raised. At the same time, each person will be rewarded with 10 caddies of beef. Disband, Shi Xiong said loudly. The men of the 3rd Squadron, they all made a breast-stretching ceremony, and then they disbanded in cheers. Those hapless guys with broken bones were helped by their comrades and walked towards the wooden houses where they lived. Several women in white hats and white clothes immediately followed. The other men of the Gaoshu tribe continued to train, and Shi Xiong turned his head and said loudly to the large group of warriors of the Crooked Deer tribe, "I see it, this is unreserved obedience to orders." The warriors of the Crooked Deer's tribe were silent, but after a while, a voice rang loudly, "Guardian, do you mean that you intentionally injured your brother, without your order? These wounded brother will not get hurt." As soon as this voice came out, the soldiers who had been silent began to buzz. It can be seen that these fighters have such doubts. However, Shi Xiong did not answer this question at the first time. Instead, he quietly watched these soldiers whispering to each other. After these soldiers felt that something was wrong and their discussion gradually became quieter, Shi Xiong said, "In many ordinary in the eyes of people, it is indeed incorrect for me to do this. But those brothers just now, and you, have ceased to be ordinary people since stepping into this training ground, because your identities have begun to change from being an ordinary person. Man has turned into a real warrior. But we were warriors before. We are all real warriors who have killed people and have seen blood." Another voice sounded, and the guys from the Crooked Deer tribe began to nod their heads, with pride on their faces. "No, you are not fighters yet. In other words, you can't be called real fighters now." Shi Xiong vetoed the question without hesitation. Of course, Shi Xiong's statement immediately caused these fighters to discuss it again. It can be seen that these fighters are very dissatisfied with Shi Xiong's statement. Shi Xiong watched the warriors who were talking about it again, and did not say anything until the discussion fell down again. Shi Xiong said, "Do you know what the real standard of a fighter is?" Before the soldiers answered, Shi Xiong gave the answer directly. A person who only kills or hunts cannot be called a warrior, and a person who is not afraid of death and daring forward is not a warrior. The word warrior is a very sacred word, and not everyone is qualified to be a warrior. Soldiers, only those who know how to obey orders, know how to cooperate with their comrades, and know how to achieve the greatest victory at the least cost, are qualified to be called fighters. You are far from enough. Why? This time it was Day's turn to ask questions. Not why, because what I just said was the standard, which was told to me by the Supreme Sun God. Only those who become such can be called fighters, and those who cannot do these are not worthy of being called fighters. She the bear once again took out the big hat of the Supreme Sun God, and it really worked. As the highest deity believed by the entire Cherokee tribe, No one dares to doubt what the Supreme Sun said. Even Chief Junaruska, High Priest Bakaruzal, and their respected Chief Karakrilu did not dare to doubt. Then, respectable guardian, what are we brothers missing to be the fighters you call? They continued to ask. You are still much worse. Shi Xiong shook his head slightly. However, you already have the foundation to become a truly qualified fighter. You are brave and not afraid of death. You go forward courageously. These are all qualified fighters. The foundation is necessary. But these alone are not enough. The first thing you and your brothers have to learn is how to unconditionally obey the orders of their superiors. Is it just like the brothers of the 3rd Squadron? Yes, what they did just now was to completely and unconditionally obey the orders of their superiors. What I showed you today is just jumping trenches. If you are on the real battlefield at www.wuxiaspa.com in order to achieve certain military goals, even if just let them jump off the cliff, and they will jump down without hesitation. This is unreserved, completely unconditional obedience to orders. Only those who do this can be called fighters. But I still think it would be a vain sacrifice to let them jump off the trench or off the cliff like this. Day continued to defend. Shi Xiong glanced at Day deeply, nodded slightly and said, if you are a battlefield commander now, it is actually very unqualified for you to think about it like this. Sacrifice. What is sacrifice? Is it sacrifice for them to jump off the cliff? First of all, it was not them who made the decision to jump off the cliff, but you, the battlefield commander. Of course, the reason you made this compelling decision was not to entrap these brothers, but because you know that you have to make such a painful decision as a commander when you can only sacrifice them in exchange for greater victory. Secondly, as a soldier, they may not know why their superiors want them to jump off the cliff, but they must also to do it, knowing that they are going to die. They must do so, because they are fighters and they must obey the orders of their superiors. Even if their superiors let them die, they must obey such orders. Only those who do this to become a true soldier. After saying this, Shi Xiong shook his head slightly and said, I'm telling you this now. You certainly don't understand why I said that, but what I want to tell you is if you want to become a conqueror of Kari, as a member of human beings, from now on you must learn how to unconditionally obey the orders of your superiors, and in order to do this, you must undergo arduous training. Chapter 322, Expeditionary Brothers. In order to train a person to become a qualified fighter, the armies of later generations have summed up countless experiences. But in these experiences, the training method of the Chinese soldiers is undoubtedly the most successful. Before the Stone Bear Soul was worn, the words that the army of the soldiers were invincible in the world were not casually said. Perhaps the Air Force, Navy, and even the strategic forces of the army are still a little bit different from the old Americans and the old Mozzie, but when it comes to the army alone, no country dares to fight against the army. Whether it was the War of Resistance, the War of Resisting USA and Korea, or the counterattacking self-defense against Vietnam, the soldiers defeated the armies of the two most powerful countries in the world with iron victories. Whether it was the Americans who invaded North Korea or secretly supported them, the Soviets in Vietnam all knelt down and sang conquest in front of their soldiers. And the strength of the soldiers does not come from the advanced nature of the weapons, but from the iron discipline and almost perfect execution rate of the soldiers. To put it bluntly, when it comes to obeying orders, soldiers from any country in the world cannot be compared with soldiers. Therefore, Shi Xiong intends to train this group of expeditionary troops by training his children in his previous life. Although he has never been a soldier or received professional military training, he has seen pigs run without eating pork. In the era of the information explosion, Shi Xiong knew how to train soldiers. To train qualified soldiers, standing in line is undoubtedly the most basic. Whether standing in a military posture or marching in a line, the fundamental purpose is actually the process of transforming an ordinary person into a professional soldier. And this method does not require any sophisticated training equipment, nor does it require any advanced training plan. This training method is just one word: practice. 2 words: hard training. 3 words: practice hard. The sun at the end of October has no heat on my body, but I can't stand still for a long time in a posture. Therefore, The 1,000 men of the Crooked Deer tribe trained on the first day were soaked in sweat. The men who have never received this kind of training are suffocated in their hearts. When they usually fight against the Chikashes, whether it is killing or setting fire, they have always been happy, whereas the suffocation like now. But they all clenched their teeth one by one, without him, just because there were close to 400 men standing straight like them. These people are naturally the musketeers of the Gaoshu tribe. Compared to these later men in the Crooked Deer's tribe, they had already received this kind of training a few months ago, so this kind of standing military posture for 2 or 3 hours is nothing to them. Up. If any of you feel unbearable, you can leave now. I won't stop. Absolutely won't stop. Shi Xiong's demon-like voice sounded as always. Similarly, it would sound almost every 10 minutes. If you want to be a hero to conquer the Kree, then you have to receive such training. Don't ask why. Don't think about why, because there is no answer, because this is what you must do to become a fighter or even a hero through the road. If you can't even persist in such training, then you will not be qualified to become fighters, and you will lose the possibility of becoming heroes. Look at these brothers around you. They can stand still. Can't you stand? Obey. Obey the order. Obey the order unconditionally. You have to do what I want you to do. Even if I let you eat it now, you must go down and eat without hesitation. Why? Can't hold on? If you can't hold on, get out of here. There will be no idlers, no useless waste. If you can't even stand up well, why use 1,400 people to conquer the Kree? Are you really the Kree using paper? Therefore, you can only go if you become stronger. Only by conquering the Kree can we become a hero that everyone in our Cherokee tribe admires. But if you want to do this, you have to obey my orders honestly and stand here. I won't give orders, you guys. You have to stand from here and can't move. Whoever moves is equal to surrender. There is no need for people in my team to surrender. In my team, only real fighters who are as tough as Das Han are needed. The magic sound of Shi Xiong's voice constantly echoed over the training ground, but no matter how bad he said it, no one quit. I have to say, these men who have gone through life and death fight, once the blood in their hearts is aroused, then they can still hold on. Especially beside them, there is a group of men from the Gaoshu tribe who they think are far less powerful than them. Can't lose to those guys from the Gaoshu tribe anyway. The training method of the stone bear is naturally well known in later generations, but in this age, it is really the only thing that's scorpion shit, so it is easy to stimulate the blood in the hearts of these guys who have never been exposed to this training method. Only by stimulating the blood in the hearts of these guys can they persevere, and only if they persevere, can they learn how to obey orders slowly and imperceptibly through continuous words like brainwashing. This is a relatively long process. Huaxia soldiers still have a 3-month recruit company. But Shi Xiong is not in a hurry. The expedition to the Kare people will at least not be possible until the beginning of spring next year. It is not a wise thing to go to expedition through the foggy mountains in winter. www.wuxiaspot.com. A long winter is enough for these guys to learn how to obey orders. Suddenly there are more than 1,000 men who can eat in the tribe. If you change to another tribe, even the royal court will not be able to afford it. However, the Gaoshu tribe has a great harvest of food, and these men are not the masters who eat nothing but work. They need to go hunting after training. Hunting is also a way of training and a way of relaxation. In addition to training, Shi Xiong also directly moved the future generations of team cooperation development training projects. What kind of high-altitude broken bridges, what backfalls, what graduation walls, what trams, etc. As long as the expansion training projects that Shi Xiong knows about, he has brought them all without shame. While learning how to obey orders, soldiers should also pay attention to cooperation with their comrades. Outreach training is undoubtedly a good training method. Not only is it interesting, but it also greatly promotes the awareness of teamwork. When I just graduated from Stone Bear University in my previous life, I did not participate in this kind of development training less. Taking these outreach training projects to this age is actually just as easy to use. In any case, as the days of training go by day, Whether it is the guy from the Gaoshu tribe or the guy from the Crooked Deer's tribe, they have completely merged. They are no longer called your tribe or our tribe. In this case, in the mouths of these guys, the unity of calling each other has become brothers of the Expeditionary Army. Chapter 323, 5 months. Training is a very boring thing, but it is this kind of boring that can play a very good role in tempering. Training, especially military training, is actually a process of constant torture. Just like ironing, if a piece of ordinary pig iron wants to become a good steel with both hardness and toughness, it must be beaten continuously. Through constant beating, the impurities in the pig iron are removed, and finally a good piece can be obtained. Hundreds of steel making. Military training is the same. An ordinary person is like a piece of pig iron with a very ordinary texture, but through repeated training such as military training, some bad habits that ordinary people originally possessed are eliminated, so that they can retrain a better habit, and finally they can grow into a qualified soldier. The 1,000 warriors of the Crooked Deer tribe have started uninterrupted training since they came to the High Tree tribe at the end of the Hunter's Month, October. Together with the 400 musketeers of the Gaoshu tribe, they have to train for the Worm Moon, March, of the coming year before they officially set off. During this period, about 5 months of intensive military training will take place. Shi Xiong also spent his first anniversary in this era during this period. Of course, during these 5 months, the entire Gaoshu tribe is also like a machine full of power, running at high speed. The matter of accepting the small tribes originally separated from the Gaoshu tribe has completely ended. The population of the entire Gaoshu tribe eventually exceeded 2,000 in one fell swoop, becoming the second largest tribe in the entire Tennessee population after the Crooked Deer's tribe. But don't think that the Gaoshu tribe is not as large as the Crooked Deer tribe, but in terms of overall strength, the Gaoshu tribe can shake the Crooked Deer tribe as far as the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. Thanks to the food production issues that Shi Xiong has been paying attention to, the Gaoshu tribe has obtained a huge harvest of food this year, whether it is wheat, corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, or soybeans, cotton, or castor. These cash crops, thanks to the hard work of hundreds of women from the Gaoshu tribe, have achieved huge harvests. Even if the Crooked Deer tribe came over with 1,000 warriors, and brought back other small tribes, the food was enough for these people to eat for another year. There is grain in his hand, so I don't panic. Now the Gaoshu tribe has embodied this sentence vividly. Because I can fill my stomach, other work progresses very well. Salt making. Needless to say, during the military training, a major from Jamestown once again brought a huge convoy to the Gaoshu tribe. This time the British brought very few kinds of things, except for some things that Shi Xiong called for. The others were all war horses. The refined salt that flowed out from the Gaoshu tribe has now become a scarce material looted by the 13 colonies in North America and even the entire United Kingdom. Such exquisite table salt, salt with no scent, is a good thing for the British aristocracy to compete for. For those nobles who have become popular in comparisons, if there are not a few bottles of fine salt produced in the New World on their table, then you will be looked down upon by people in the circle. Even as the current British King George III, he is full of praise for this refined salt produced in the New World. And now the table salt used on George III's table is all this refined salt that came across the ocean. The salt used in the British palace has long been no longer used. Even the king likes this kind of refined salt, and it is effective. Therefore, the British aristocracy and the rich now feel that they have the face of having this refined salt. It is even said that this refined salt has passed through the English Channel and entered the Old World, appearing on the tables of great nobles in countries such as France, Spain, Portugal, the Netherlands, and Germany. Anyway, this refined salt is now one of the most sought-after items in the entire Old World and the 13 colonies of the New World, and the price has risen crazy from the original price of 6 pence a pound to 1 shilling 10 pence a pound, and the price is in just a short time, in less than a year, it has risen wildly by nearly 4 times. When Major Hank came last time, He also brought news that the price of this refined salt rose wildly. Shi Xiong decisively doubled the shipping price, but even so, the wildly rising price still allowed Colonel Jones, who controls the sales chain, has gained greater benefits. So now Colonel Jones attaches great importance to this Indian tribe at the foot of the Great Smoky Mountains. If it were not for traffic restrictions, the highest military officer of Jamestown would have liked to come and pull salt once a month. Of course, it was precisely because the refined salt was so popular that Colonel Jones finally had no choice but to pinch his nose to the stone bearer's condition that he would exchange the refined salt with the war horse. Compared with the native Indians who lacked horses, millions of British colonists living in the 13 colonies in North America have completely taken root in the New World. Most of these colonists are poor farmers from the United Kingdom, and they have gained a lot of money in the New World. The land can be freely cultivated for various crops including tobacco leaves, and large livestock such as cattle and horses can also be raised. So for the New World 13 colonies, there is no shortage of cows or horses. This time the major named Audrey Fogg once again brought a full 8 war horses to the Stone Bear. This is after the Stone Bear increased the price of refined salt. There will be so many horses, and also use the caravan, pull a lot of refined salt back to Jamestown. Anyway, this is a good deal. War horses are a very precious resource for North American Indians, but they are nothing to the colonists of the New World. www.wuxiaspa.com can be sold for horses worth hundreds of pounds. 2,000 or 3,000 pounds of refined salt. This is definitely something Colonel Jones would like to see. The exquisite salt produced by the tribe can greatly enhance the strength of the entire tribe, but at the same time, other tasks of the tribe have not been put down. Has 4 inland river armed transport ships seized from the French, and the saltpeter from the Zio tribe can be continuously transported to the Gaoshu tribe. Coupled with the sulfur from the original Dikinshan tribe, at least the black gunpowder from the Gaoshu tribe is absolutely indispensable. The steelmaking has never been interrupted. Hard bones. The child is still young, but he is now one of the 2 highest leaders in steelmaking work in the entire Gaoshu tribe. Well, the other person in charge is Musha, the second son of Old Wood. Now the wood planer has completely thrown away the family-renowned carpenter craftsmanship and plunged into steelmaking. Although his old father Lao Mu is very dissatisfied with his behavior, Lao Mu can't help it. After all, his second son is in the same position as his father. They are all serious projects, department manager level. And compared to the Old Wood with a group of carpenters busy building various wooden utensils every day, the steel aspect of the wood planer is undoubtedly more important. Steel can be said to be the most important and basic thing in addition to food for the entire Gaoshu tribe. This is now the whole Gaoshu tribe's people have very much agreed. As long as there is a steady stream of steel, everything will become better and better. Chapter 324, Bottleneck. Now the entire Gaoshu tribe is based on high-yield food, steel and cement as the skeleton, and other refined salt, alcohol, cigarettes, and oil as the flesh and blood. It has formed the embryonic form of an industrial tribe. It is worth mentioning that the last time Major Hank left, he took some cigarettes and alcohol with him. As a result, when Major Adrian Fogg came this time, he specifically asked to bring a batch of alcohol and cigarettes back. Obviously, compared to salt, which is indispensable in daily life, cigarettes and alcohol are undoubtedly more attractive to the nobles. But Shi Xiong didn't let Major Fogg bring back many cigarettes and drinks. He still knew about hunger marketing. Whether it is alcohol or cigarettes, even if it is placed in the UK, it is an absolute luxury in this era. This kind of high-quality liquor and cigarettes are rare in this era, especially cigarettes, which have never appeared at all. Therefore, Shi Xiong intends to use these 2 things as the mainstay in the last 10 or 20 years, to enter the aristocratic class of the old continent, and then to exchange for a large amount of materials needed here. As for whether or not to add material to cigarettes in the future, it depends on the specific situation. For this extra material, to be honest, Shi Xiong is also quite embarrassed. Gook has long been passed on from the South American continent, and North American Indians also like this kind of plant that can greatly increase energy. However, Shi Xiong knows how to purify gucco. Once this thing is purified, even if the effect is not as good as the white noodles of later generations, it is also extremely addictive. To put it bluntly, this thing is Pandora's box. Once opened, no one knows what the consequences will be. What if this thing spreads among the Indians of the New World? Then these Indians can't be saved by anyone. It is for this reason that Shi Xiong has not made up his mind to add ingredients to cigarettes. The war horses that were traded with the British were eliminated, and the weapons and equipment prepared by the Gaoshu tribe for the expeditionary army were increasing. David Adian and Jack Williams are now cooperating more and more closely, and under the guidance of Shi Xiong from time to time. The two have also made many breakthroughs in various research and development. Adian is a French alchemist who is good at metal smelting. Although he is a man of this age, he can't keep up with the level of metal smelting even if he rides a horse. Adian is a professional talent in metal smelting. What he lacks now is some forward-looking things, such as how to improve the hardness or toughness of metals. In this era, human beings still don't know that the key factor affecting the hardness and toughness of steel is the amount of carbon. At least they have not clearly concluded that carbon can affect various performance indicators of steel. But under the guidance of Shi Xiong, Adian has now begun to master how to add carbon in the molten iron to control the hardness and toughness of the steel. For example, it can be used as carbon tool steel for drill bits. The carbon tool steel used to make drill bits in later generations is T13 steel. This steel has poor toughness but high hardness, which is very suitable for cutting, and drilling. Ishikama told Adian that the carbon content of this T13 steel must be controlled between 1.25% and 1.35%. Too high or too low a carbon content cannot smelt this high-strength tool steel. In addition, the content of silicon, manganese, sulfur, and phosphorus must be strictly controlled. For this kind of high-hardness carbon steel, Adian is naturally very interested. After more than half a year of testing in his metallurgical laboratory, he finally came up with a high-hardness carbon steel close to the performance of T13 steel. Although this kind of steel can't be compared with real T13 steel, it is not a problem to process other steels in this era. Of course, Shi Xiong also told him that adding some other metal elements to the raw materials during steelmaking can also greatly change the performance indicators of steel. Anyway, as long as Shi Xiong knew something, he would tell Adian. Although Shi Xiong does not know the specific performance values of most metal materials, he only needs to tell Adian what elements need to be added to smelt these alloy steels. As for whether Adian can experiment, it depends on the skill of the French alchemist. And Jack Williams got a lot of high-performance steel because of Adian's help. With these steels, Williams can experiment with various processing equipment. With the joint efforts of the two people, when the long night full moon, December, entered, the first deep-hole drilling machine of the Gaoshu tribe was finally successfully produced. This kind of simple machine tool that uses water power as the drive, gear transmission, and high-hardness carbon steel as the drill bit, can be said to be the most advanced machine tool in the world. This kind of machine tool can drill holes up to 90 centimeters in depth. If you want to drill more than 90 centimeters of holes, you need to turn the workpiece and process it twice. Now the barrel length of the Ferguson rifle is 1.4 meters, so if you want to process the barrel of a Ferguson rifle, you need to drill holes from both ends. The barrels of the Ferguson rifles produced before are all cast, but it is not a big problem when black powder is used as the propellant. However, in the future, the guns of the Gaoshu tribe will inevitably be fired with non-flooded gunpowder, homonymous, so casting barrels will no longer work. Compared with black gunpowder, the power of unflooded gunpowder is much greater. If you use a cast barrel, it is easy to explode. www.wuxiaspad.com. But for now, the rifle used by the expeditionary army is still black. Gunpowder is used as propellant. But the production of new barrels has already begun. With specific data, the second, third and nth drilling machines can be continuously produced. As for the new broaching machine for rifling, Williams has developed it a long time ago. This kind of broaching machine, which also uses water as power, is more efficient than manual broaching. If the broach is replaced with newly developed carbon tool steel, the efficiency of the broaching machine will become higher. In any case, in these 5 months, the weapon building of the Gaoshu tribe has never stopped. Is not only the building of the rifle, but also the building of the grenadier. However, compared to the processing difficulty of the rifle barrel, the processing difficulty of the grenadier barrel cast by the casting process is undoubtedly much lower. So the production speed of the grenades is very fast. If it weren't for the laborious casting of the grenade thrown by the grenades, Shi Xiong would have liked to throw the grenades by himself. The difficulty of casting a grenadier grenade is much higher than that of a grenadier barrel. From modeling to pouring, 2 workers can cast 7 or 8 grenades in just one day, even a highly efficient skilled worker. The main limitation of casting speed is modeling. Wrong. I can think of a better modeling method or get the punching machine out in the future, otherwise the number of grenades will always be the bottleneck of the large-scale promotion of the grenades. Chapter 325, Musketeers and Artillery. In fact, thanks to the efforts of Jack Williams, Gaoshu tribe now has a simple punching machine. This type of press is powered by water power, and is powered by a separate water wheel. But now this punching machine is still very primitive. It can only punch some very simple iron objects, such as the grenade tailwing part used by the grenadier. This punching machine is still unable to achieve punching manufacturing. Therefore, in the past 5 months, all the people in the tribe who can be mobilized have been working overtime to make grenade shells. After all, this bullet-throwing barrel is definitely a long-range attack weapon that the Expeditionary Army relies on. The grenades are not only small in size and light in weight, so that one person can run across the street with their backs on their backs, but the grenades fired are not less powerful than earthen grenade. Although it cannot be mass-produced because of the bitterness and sourness, most of the grenades are filled with black powder, but black powder, which is also a primary flour bomb. Moreover, after the impact fuse is used, it can be well guaranteed that the grenade will explode when it touches the ground, causing maximum damage to the enemy. Therefore, for this expedition, Shi Xiong intends to bombard the enemy with a bullet indiscriminately when encountering a large group of enemies, and then shoot it with a musket. If the enemy does not collapse, then use bows and arrows to deal with them. As for the homemade grenade, it is the last long-range defense weapon. Although black powder cannot be compared with non-flooded gunpowder, after increasing the loading of black powder, the maximum throwing distance of the grenade is only about 50 meters lower than when using non-flooded gunpowder as the propellant. The maximum range can still reach more than 600 meters. When bombing at this distance, you can definitely let the enemy taste what is called wanlei bangling. After all, the expeditionary force only has so many people, so it is Shi Xiong's first guarantee to reduce the casualty rate of soldiers as much as possible, so long-range bombing with grenades is the safest means of attack. In the current era, apart from the silly artillery used by the Vassages that fire solid rounds, there is no weapon that can reach a range of 600 meters. As for the accuracy, with the bloom bombs, and the indiscriminate carpet bombing, what accuracy is needed? After adjusting the range, just launch it directly. Therefore, the demand for grenades in this expedition is huge. In short, for this expedition, in order to make the Gaoshu tribe completely famous, the entire Gaoshu tribe has not been idle for a whole winter, and all the people who can move have participated in this big construction. It is precisely because of the efforts of the people of the Gaoshu tribe that when the Moon of Worm arrived, the entire Gaoshu tribe provided a total of 170 grenadiers and 700 muskets for the expeditionary army, of which more than 100 were an updated gun produced by barrel drilling technology. In other words, just these hot weapons require close to 900 people to operate. As for the grenades, the workers of the Gaoshu tribe produced more than 14,000 grenades in the past 5 months. This number seems to be large, but it is allocated to each grenadier, and each grenade is only allocated to more than 80 grenades. In terms of a rate of fire of up to 20 rounds per minute for the grenades, these grenades are at most enough for these grenades to fire 4 minutes at full capacity. But the transportation of more than 4,000 grenades has also become a big problem, because the grenade is filled with black powder. In order to ensure the lethality of the grenade, the charge is much more than the charge of using bitter sour medicine, so the weight of a grenade is close to 1 kilogram, which is more than the weight of the 91 style grenade used in Japan's 89 style grenades, nearly doubled. This is really no way. In this era, the weight of the grenade can be reduced to this level, which is the best effort Williams and Adian can make. Therefore, the total weight of the more than 4,000 grenades alone has reached a terrifying 14,000 kilograms, which is a weight of 14 tons. Plus the propellant, the weight is even greater. But in order to ensure the survival rate of the brothers on the battlefield, this thing is indispensable. Therefore, in order to transport these ammunition, the Gaoshu tribe must dispatch as many as 100 four-wheeled bullock carts that can carry 200 kilograms. Fortunately, there are more than 1,000 soldiers in the tribe. These soldiers have a project to cooperate in capturing bison in their usual training missions. Coupled with the sacred ox nose ring for taming bison, the number of bison tamed by the Gaoshu tribe has risen sharply in the past 5 months. The only thing that makes the tribe people depressed is that the number of bison within dozens of miles around the Gaoshu tribe is rapidly decreasing. In the future, it will not be easy for the tribe to hunt bison and eat beef. In this expedition, the number of four-wheeled ox carts alone has reached more than 200, including the vehicles used to pull food supplies. Fortunately, a month before the expedition, a team from the Cherokee Palace arrived at the High Tree tribe. The leader of the Bone Spear tribe, the first guardian of the Cherokee court, Bone Spear, personally led 300 warriors to the High Tree tribe, and was supported by Chief Junaruska. Because of the addition of the Big Killer, the Grenadier, although the original 400 musketeers of the Gaoshu tribe did not increase, 350 artillery soldiers were added. For the extra musketeers, 300 people from the 1,000 soldiers of the Crooked Deer tribe were selected to serve as musketeers, so that the number of musketeers reached 700. Although can be operated by one person, Shi Xiong decided to let 2 people operate together after considering it. One is the main gunner and the other is the deputy gunner. The weight of the tossing barrel itself is not too large, only a little more than 2 kilograms, which is nearly half lighter than a Ferguson rifle, so it is absolutely no problem for the main gunner to run around with his back on his back. In addition to the tossing barrel, the main gunner can also carry 4 additional grenades, so that the main gunner's load is only 6 kilograms. The second gunner also has to carry 5 rounds of grenades, and then carry about 1 kilogram of propellant. This combat method can be as fierce as the last expedition to the Uchiran. The horses and the tame bison all fought together with the troops. In this expedition, the logistic unit is the logistic unit, and the combat unit is the combat unit. Once the front scout finds the enemy, the logistics unit and the combat unit are separated. In this way, before each battle, the main gunner and the deputy gunner can carry a total of 9 rounds of grenades plus the corresponding propellant, which is actually a lot. So, before the expeditionary force attacked, the number of personnel of the entire expeditionary force increased from the previously estimated 1,400 to less than 2,100. The number of combat teams used for combat is 1,050, 700 musketeers and 350 gunners. The remaining 1,000 people will not be idle, and the logistics force alone and the soldiers to protect need at least 700 people. The remaining 300 people are all carefully selected archers. They will serve as guerrilla missions, attacking with bows and arrows at critical moments. At the same time, these 300 people are also responsible for building the shield wall for the main force at critical moments. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.